You know, if you put Nova's agenda in your browser, it'll pop up.
I know, but I got it.
You got it.
All right.
I got to ask you a question later.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our second Tuesday council meeting and work session. On the third Tuesday, we had an exciting time. Several of us in Washington, D.C. for National League of Cities. I'm sure you'll be hearing about that during our council comments. Mr. Clerk, I am going to call this meeting to order. Would you please call the roll?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and the general public. This is a roll call for the March 19th work session. The Honorable Catherine F. Rao, District 1.
Present.
The Honorable Carmelita Gums, District 2.
Present.
The Honorable Helen Z. Willis, District 3. The Honorable J.C. Sebastian, District 4.
Present.
The Honorable Keosha B. Bell, District 5. The Honorable Natasha Williams Brown, District 6. And the Honorable Linda B. Pritchett, District 7.
Here.
And the Honorable Mayor Khalid.
Present.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
All right, please sound the next item.
Next item on the agenda is city manager items. City manager report will be provided by City Manager Sharon D. Subadan.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. The city manager report was provided to you electronically. It's also in the packet. And the public works report was also included. So at this time, I am subject to any questions that you may have.
All right, the chair recognizes. I don't know if you all can hear me. My mic is on. As long as people can hear me on Zoom, I think y'all can hear me in the room. The chair recognizes District 3 Councilwoman Willis.
Thank you. Thank you for providing the city manager report, Ms. Subadan. I have a couple of questions. I was reading the budget and I saw on the rental motor vehicle excise tax that we had a 98% difference from the previous year, and that was like a huge difference. Can you answer to why we had such a significant, a 98% decrease in the rental motor vehicle excise tax?
Some of these taxes, can you hear me?
Yes, I
Yeah,
can.
okay. Some of these taxes are collected at certain times of the year. So for example, you'll notice that the insurance premium tax, majority of it gets collected at a certain time of year and then it trails off. But we can look into it specifically and get back to you just to make sure.
Okay, if you can. And then under my public work projects, so it had a notation that it had a star by it, and I looked for the additional information that's applied to the project, and I didn't see it listed. It was for the final design of Walker Mall and Scarborough Road intersection improvement, includes roundabout and sidewalks, acquiring 9 parcels with a fall 2024 construction let date. And that date, it had a star, an asterisk, meaning that it was additional information, and it wasn't any additional information included. So if you could look at that and get back with me if you don't have it now.
Sure. Can you tell me the project number? I'm looking at it.
Yes, it's OSI 618.
Okay, OSI. All right, I'll highlight that.
And then there was quite a few of them. The OSI 617 let date, it just said summer of 2024. So let date, I know we approved the eminent domain, which I asked for the information, what was going to be the next step for us improving the contract for the eminent domain parcel acquisition. So I guess this is the next step, the design and then the let date. Is that how that works? I guess we might need to have just like a separate meeting so I can, okay, before I put information out in the community, I want to be able to speak to it. So I'll reach out to you and get on your calendar. And just so that you know, I'm seeking information on OSI 617, OSI 616, OSI 618, OSI 615, and OSI 613, which are the two projects that's going to be together on Stonewall Tell. And these projects have been outstanding as long as I've been on council, and they have had adjusted dates quite a few times, and the community is just a little I won't say they're not impatient, but they're anxious. That's the right word. They're anxious to get these projects in queue.
Okay.
All right. The next question, I didn't see this in the report, and I would ask if you could have a comprehensive, and thank you for the update you provided me on the pool. I do have that. But if you can give a comprehensive update on where we are with the park and recreation projects. Specifically, I know that we had some copper theft in several of the parks. And so specifically, I need an update on where we are with getting those lights repaired at the tennis center.
Yeah, we're almost done at the
Okay.
tennis center, but there were other thefts, so we'll circle back and report.
Okay.
I think it was in my last report, we had a facility, it might be in this report, there's a facility section.
Yeah, but it wasn't that's why I saw that, but it wasn't very detailed.
Okay, we'll get you something on.
And I didn't see anything about the tennis court update. And I guess my question would be, when you get that update, is there any are the cameras in place to try to catch whoever is doing this? Because this has happened frequently.
Well, I don't know if it's happened frequently, but it has happened to us. And so the goal is for us to secure the access to the copper better, as best we can. And the camera project is moving forward. And of course, there's a big section of the camera project on all parks. So we're trying to time things so that we are able to have that information.
And so, yes, it has happened frequently. This is about the third time we've had a copper theft at that tennis center.
Okay.
Prior to you. This is about the third time, but twice prior to you being here.
Okay.
And so I didn't want us to go through the process of getting those lights repaired and then somebody does it again because we don't have a proper security measures in place.
Sure.
There is a court, the clay court at the tennis center, and this was ever since last year. That tennis court needs remediation, and the sprinkler system that is supposed to keep that tennis court saturated needs to be repaired. When they did that rehab of the tennis court, I'm not really sure who was supposed to be overseeing that project, but the sprinkler was put under the tennis court, and there's something wrong with the sprinkler, but we put over $300,000 in renovation in that tennis court, and that tennis court has to be repaired because it's not being sprinkled or saturated with water properly. So if you can please check on that and provide an update, I would appreciate it. And then if you could please provide a schedule, because I didn't see this in the last one or in the utility update, well, not utility update, the repair update, a schedule for the flooring installation here. They're supposed to be doing the flooring here, and I just don't want it to interfere with or delay the park and recreation activities for the summertime.
Yeah, I think we're going to get it done in time.
So that was in the budget for us to get new flooring in this. And I know Mr. Turner said he was going to do it in sections and try to get it completed. But, you know, every time we do flooring and do something, we find most of the time mold.
Right. And so at this point, I wouldn't recommend it before summer. Even if, in the best case scenario, we picked it up and got it all put down, we got it done in time. If we encounter any delays, it's going to impact summer programming. So if we do it, I would recommend that we do it toward the slow season.
So can we get a schedule? Because I know we pushed it out so we could get it done in the spring, and now we're saying that we're gonna have to probably do it another time. So can you get with your staff and provide a schedule on when it's gonna be done?
I'll
Because
task
then that'll be
Turner.
next budget year. I think this last one. Sorry, colleagues, but I do read the manager's report. Litter pickup. So I have submitted several litter tickets over the course of this month, and sometimes it's the same area consistently. Is there any way that I don't understand how they're doing litter. Like, are they being proactive? Are they riding around? Are they looking? Are they just waiting on people to report it? Because it's pretty bad.
I have noticed an increase. You know, they're scheduled every other week on our main thoroughfares, but the reality is we're not keeping up. I even noticed yesterday FIB just looked terrible. We've gotten some estimates to go to weekly, and it's pretty hefty. It is something that, on a separate note, we're getting ready to do the budget mid-year. So it is something that I was going to incorporate in our mid-year budget review as a potential of something that we start. The reality is we also need some enforcement on the litter size as well. When the cameras are up, we'll have more evidence. But we really are having a challenge citywide on all our main thoroughfares with litter. And to the extent that you can all help with getting the Pride in Our City word out through your newsletters to your residents, I think it would be helpful too, because you almost can't clean your way up out of litter if people just keep, you get it all picked up today, and then tomorrow we're kind of back to square one. So we need some help from residents.
So I would ask, we have a new communications director. Can he give us some help around
Messaging?
So messaging and marketing so that we can kind of be consistent. Some of the areas, like I said, are consistent. So I would ask that staff look at putting flock cameras in those areas. Like Spring Road, I'm sending you all requests every week to go clean that road. Mason Road, the arterial roads is what people are coming into the residential communities and going down some of these arterial roads and throwing trash. Marc Road and Miles Road, those roads, Union Road, and I actually see people leaving out of the factories on Welcome-Out Road and throwing chicken boxes on the side of the road. So we really do need some flock cameras in those areas so we can catch the violators. That is it for my questions concerning your, so I was just asked we are approaching grass cutting season, and we used to get a schedule on how often they were going to cut grass. So I would just put that on your radar and ask for the next city's manager report if you can include that information on grass and an update on litter and even an update on the cameras. And lastly, we funded the light study, where we are with getting that funded and what areas we're going to look at for the light study.
So the study was complete and was presented, and we funded a portion of implementation. Some of that work is being done, so we can also bring you back an update on that as well. We're working closely with Georgia Power and Greystone on that.
Okay. Thank you. I yield.
Anyone else? The chair recognizes, now I am.
Okay.
The chair recognizes District 4, Councilman Sebastian. Mayor Pro Tem Sebastian, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm city manager. I have a couple of questions with the financial piece as well. It's not all bad news. As a matter of fact, a lot of it is not bad news. I noticed in our revenue for investment income, we have 140% year over year already. what are we doing, and can we do it again?
Well, we talked about this.
Okay, can you tell us, refresh my memory, what it is? Can we say it publicly?
Yeah, we.
All right, well, go ahead.
Sure, we diversified our banking
Uh-huh.
from one bank into 3 banks. When I got here, you had all of your holdings in a single bank account, a single bank, not a bank account, multiple accounts. They were not interest bearing. Our ARPA funds were not in an interest bearing account, even though we were allowed to do that. So we diversified. We put our accounts into Georgia Fund 1, which is backed by the state of Georgia. Our largest sums of money that are slow moving were put into those accounts. And we negotiated 2 additional banks. And so we're moving our money, and we've negotiated interest. Since you allowed me to do that starting last year, as of the last calculation, we've collected or raised $4.5 million in interest on the city's funding. Before we go out and spend it, just recognize that all of our projects are coming in significantly higher than planned, but this hedges our expenditure against inflation.
Okay, so it's just money movement, basically.
It wasn't just money movement.
No, I'm trying to understand. I'm not a financier.
It was the select money movement
Okay.
and also picking the right places that all meet state requirements. You can't just put city money anywhere.
Obviously, yeah. I
Right.
know that little piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yes, working to figure out what needed to go in the right places.
So, in the same category, I noticed our business license is like only at 21%. Is that normal, or are we behind?
No, we're good. This
'Cause-
is as of January.
Uh-huh.
Our business licenses, we start advertising that in December, and it goes through March 31st.
So unlike the financial year, that starts in January. Is that why it's
Correct,
behind?
and that's the time when we do
Okay.
renewals through March of 31st. As of the last look at this, more recently, it's looking very good. We should be fine.
Okay. So for the Public Works report, I didn't see anything in there on Jones and Hall Road. And I just happened to be up there at a meeting at one of the schools yesterday, and those roads are really bad again. I don't know if I missed it, but they need to be treated again. And also, what's an update on getting those road paved, especially Jones Road?
Councilwoman Gums raised 3 roads, and you've raised a couple roads for paving. I have instructed the Public Works Department to get us the design and the cost associated with paving the roads. There is funding in the budget for that.
Okay. So I know we last had a discussion with the folks up on Hall Road. Where we had left it, we were supposed to have another conversation with the community to figure out where to go. So I don't want us to be putting out anything saying what we're going to do before we have another conversation with the folks up there,
Okay.
right? So however we can help make that happen, I would encourage, whether it's a department or to my office, that we have a conversation with them. Okay?
Sure.
The last thing, I noticed phase 2 of the camera project was released, and I do not think I see anything in there for Cedar Grove Park again.
It's there.
I'll look again, but if it's there, thank you. Because I was going to remind us that we're now doing a lot of work to improve that park, and at least in phase 2, it needs to be there. Okay?
Absolutely, it's there.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I have a few quick questions. Going back to Councilwoman Willis and the littering, of course, as we've discussed in the many emails that you received from me about littering, we have been advocating for these cameras for the longest to be put in hot spots. We tried, I guess, the deer cam and things of that nature. We even allocated money and budget towards it. And we're still at a point where we're still talking about cameras inciting people. As far as I know, I don't know, what is the status of actually going back to look at another vendor in regards to the litter pickup, because as far as I know, the company that we have now currently does not have a very good reputation. And again, they ride over pieces of trash when they should be picking it up. So my question to you is, one, when can we move this camera thing forward? Because we just keep getting delays and delays and delays. And because even before you got here, we've been advocating for these cameras to be in hot spots, and nothing has been done. The money has been moved from code enforcement, then moved to police, and this, that, and the third, okay? So our residents are really challenging us to make sure that we get these cameras in hot spots. I don't know if it's the technology that is a delay in the issue. I'm giving y'all some excuses, but I'm just saying we need to figure out how we can get these cameras. And again, the status, are we going to rebid out the RFP or something for
cameras?
No, for trash.
So I have asked procurement to establish something to get an estimate. Our existing best vendor gave us a low estimate. Well, it's a lot of money, but it's a much lower estimate than another competitive firm. Because we are not satisfied with our current company, I think we need to RFP it. Just to give you an order of magnitude, to add one additional, make it weekly, is about $600,000. So that is something we're going to have to bid. But our existing vendor gave us a number about a third of that, but we're not really satisfied with the existing vendor, so we're starting the process of noticing the vendor that we're dissatisfied with the level of their service. So that meeting, I think, is scheduled for Friday with the vendor.
So, and you also mentioned about, I guess, a litter campaign and marketing. We've done that. We've, even used money out of our budgets to put billboards up. We've gone to the schools. I'm trying to figure out how we can be more creative to get people to really figure out stop trash other than hitting them in the pockets. Then we talked about a program where I think it was maybe a good neighbor, a snitch on your neighbor type of program where they're incentivized to stop people from littering by getting maybe a $25 coupon or a discount or something. So I'm just trying to figure out, because they do it in other states and in other countries where they really penalize people for littering. We have the signs up, but we have no way of catching them. So if not marketing, but communications can come up with a more robust campaign, I think we're almost at our wits' end in regards to that. Also, too, the striping of Wolf Creek Amphitheater. Where are we? Because nobody hasn't followed up and told me about the parking lot.
Yeah, I did follow up. We are not able to stripe that parking lot. It is not in good enough condition to be able to stripe it, so we are going to have to repave it. We are going to be bringing that next week. It is about $1 million for us to repave because the condition of the pavement doesn't lend itself to be able to be striped, but we think it's going to be a worthwhile investment. We are intending to modify our E.R. Snell contract that's currently doing road resurfacing for adding that service, and they have given us the quote. So that'll be on next week's agenda, and they believe they can mobilize in about 2 weeks after they get approval. So our goal is to try to have it done timely.
So you see a perplexed look on my face. How do we get from striping and then we move to $1 million paving? Because
it's in just too bad of a shape. You can't.
But shouldn't it have been evaluated before? Because that's what.
I wasn't here when you were told it could just be striped, but when we brought the vendor out and they really evaluated the condition, and it's in bad shape. I mean, it's.
I mean, we knew that, but we
Yeah.
were told that it was going to be striped, that it needed to be striped.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I mean, it can be done, and it can be done timely, and we found a contractual mechanism to do it. We've identified the funding to do it, and the vendor is very cooperative, and they said they can turn it around for us in pretty decent time.
And the
And we'll
estimated
have
timeline on that again?
They said they can mobilize within about 2 weeks after getting the contract amendment, and I'm bringing a contract amendment to the council next week.
Okay. And I didn't get that information. Okay, thank you. That concludes my questions.
All right.
The chair recognizes, I believe, District 7, Councilman. I'm going to need you to keep that up. Thank you, because I'm just having, oh, no, I don't, but that's fine. The chair recognizes District 7, Councilwoman.
Thank you. Thank you for recognizing me, Mr. Mayor. My first question is, as I look at your report, on page 42, I see District 4, then I go through, page 43, I see District 5, and then page 44 starts talking about Jackson Music site, and I don't see anywhere here that there's any update or anything in reference to District 7 and Jackson Music stores in District 7.
It is in District 7.
Okay.
So we failed to put District 7 above Jackson Music. My apologies.
So, in regards to what the councilwomen have been talking about related to litter, when we had, I believe it was a retreat, and I asked if money can be placed in the budget, it was one of my priorities, so that we can look at larger trash receptacles and for them to be placed around the city. Can we do that?
We can. We would have to, it's not just a matter of placing them. Obviously, we have to have a schedule for emptying them. So that can be done. What would be helpful is to kind of get feedback on where you think there would make the most sense for us to do that. And Public Works can also help us with that. But yes, that can be done, and there is money in the budget for it.
Okay. And then, what I don't see here, because I guess District 7 wasn't written in here, is details on the fire station, that the land was closed on for the fire station that'll go on Oakley Industrial in District 7, and any details related to how that will progress, or?
Well, we're a little ways out. We acquired the land. We will have to come back in the budget and talk about fire stations and priorities with fire stations. And it's a two-pronged approach, right? You got to build it, but then you got to staff it. And I think it's about 32 persons to staff a station, and then several $1 million to buy apparatus. So our goal is to first acquire land while we can, so we can then roll out a plan for you as it relates to what fire stations are going to get built and staffed, and in what order.
Okay. And my last question is about, I believe at one of my town hall meetings, Mr. Valenzuela updated the community in Melanie Manor about some speed bumps. Mm-hmm. And I don't see how that's moving along in this report either.
We're going to have a whole work session on speed humps. We are, I think we have gotten to where we can change the warrants so that more will qualify. And in looking at other cities that have done that, so I think next work session or the work one after, it's our intention to bring that back and bring you an updated ordinance to consider for approval.
Now, these speed bumps I'm speaking of are speed bumps that are approved.
The ones that are approved, I've given Public Works direction to move forward. If they've been approved, they should be moving forward.
So these won't, how they're moving forward wouldn't appear on this report?
Not unless we're actually doing it.
Okay.
So I need to find out what the status of pending projects are.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I yield.
The chair recognizes Councilwoman Willis.
Thank you. Last things, Ridge Road off of Welcome All Road, it was determined that we're gonna have to do a bifurcation for that particular road because it's in East Point and in the city of South Fulton, and it needs to be paved. So it is a dirt road.
Okay.
And we thought it was in the T-SPLOS funding, but because there was confusion about where that road is situated, it's in both municipalities. And so can you please get with staff to get that going? Because that resident has been waiting for years for us to get that road paved.
Could you repeat the name of the road, please?
Ridge is Ridgee. And Dr. Cooper had talked to the Public Works Director in East Point, and it was determined that it's in both municipalities, and bifurcation is going to be needed.
Yeah, I remember it now.
And then lastly, Ms. Subadan, you're probably going to have to go back and reevaluate everything that was done in this city. That's to include the mold assessment. Because it is quite disturbing that everything that we find that was supposedly evaluated or assessed to include the Welcome All pool wasn't assessed properly. Now I'm hearing Wolf Creek, the maintenance and things at Wolf Creek wasn't assessed properly. And you're going to have to probably bring back before this council approval to approve more funding to do the things that we need to do at Wolf Creek. But then we're constantly finding that we have mold in places. So when we became a city a couple of years, maybe a year or two later, there was supposed to be a comprehensive mold assessment done on every facility. And you can ask the Public Works Director to provide you that report. I think I even have the report. I keep everything, and I'll go back and search for it. But there was a comprehensive mold assessment that was supposed to be done on every facility in this city. And it's quite disturbing to find out that a lot of stuff is being uncovered now that I feel should have been uncovered when that comprehensive mold assessment was done on all of the facilities in the city. So I would just ask that you might have to go back and reevaluate everything that was done, because it just seems like everything that was evaluated or assessed wasn't done properly.
Okay. I know we had talked about doing a citywide mold assessment.
It was
We are
done.
gonna-
I'll look for it.
Yeah,
I
I didn't
know I
know
got
what was
it.
done before.
The chair recognizes District 4 Councilman and Mayor Pro Tem Sebastian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Subadan, page 46 of your report, the last page, phase 2 of the Camry project. We don't need to go through it now, but I went and checked, and City Grove Park is not on there. If that's where it's supposed to be. The projects along Highway 92 that's in the report, those GDOT projects, you know, we were told some things at that meeting with GDOT. I would love to see at least by next month we get a true update and an official report on those projects. Because let them tell us exactly what they're doing so we can communicate this out to the community. I just don't want to take the people who are on site word for it alone. But those projects are very, very important. We had a meeting again, Board Member Warren had a meeting last night at Langston Hughes with all the schools in the area, right? And those projects are very, very important. Those kids are having a lot of problems getting to and from school. And the traffic that is being generated by the apartments that Union City has built up there on Hall Road is just going to make it much worse because they're already leasing those apartments. So we can have those projects soon enough. So we just want to know the official word so we can go from there. Thank you.
The chair recognizes District 1 Councilwoman Dr. L.
Thank you. I can't reiterate enough the importance of a citywide litter campaign. I mean, I hear a lot of complaints, but I can also see, I've seen workers out on Sundays picking up trash all over this city. So we need to do a little self-reflection as residents and people moving through the city, because I have to be honest, I think it has a lot to do with our residents and how they respect our community, to be honest. And like I said, I've even seen them out in the rain picking up trash. So I look forward to our new communications working to continue, because I think litter campaigns have to be ongoing. It can't just be for a short period of time. As it relates to the litter pickup, I think we all might need to visit the maintenance schedule to make sure those roads are on the list, because some of the areas that we repeatedly talking about, they may not be on a regular schedule, so we probably need to do a deeper dive in that list to make sure we have full coverage, because it may be that we don't have routine and they're only getting picked up when the complaints come in because they're not on the regular schedule. So if we could just check that. And one of the things that, as it relates to workout equipment, I think this is for Trammell Crow, and I can't remember which park in District 4, but one of the things we got feedback on last year was that in the heat of the summer, it is very hot, and so they can barely touch that equipment. We need some kind of canopy. I mean, it doesn't make sense to have great workout equipment if people can't use it because it's hot to the touch. So if we could look at that. That's not currently on there, but before it gets too hot, hopefully we can look into that. And then my final question is about the second chiller for the Southwest Art Center. Do you know if it's been ordered? And I just say that because I know that it was like a year's lead time to get the first chiller. And if not, I just think we probably need to at least get it ordered because of the amount of time it took to get it done.
I'll find out the status.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, seeing and there's more. All right, the chair recognizes District 7 Councilwoman Pritchett.
So I think I recall that Councilwoman Willis had introduced something that would require plaza owners, shopping center owners to have trash receptacles. And so, you know, to help combat or mitigate this this litter situation, if code enforcement can make sure that all the shopping plazas have this in place, because I think that would help a lot. And also, I know that last year, after Rick Ross had his event, the Kroger on Old National Highway wound up being trashed. And it was not cleaned up for about 3 days, and we wound up on the news because Kroger didn't decide to clean up diligently enough. So, you know, I don't know if we need to have conversations with some of our business owners, some of the lots. There are specific stores that I've even spoken to Chief Meadows about that he used to frequent and he doesn't frequent anymore because it smells like urine. Some of these retail businesses, yeah, and it's a place that you go buy food. And so some of these businesses, I don't know if we need to develop some type of plan for businesses to power wash, sanitize, a litter, like a trash schedule, because these issues just continue to come up. And I know on the Old National Corridor, it makes us look really bad. And the people that live amongst the Old National Corridor, they're not necessarily nasty people. But somehow, these retail businesses look very nasty and give an impression where you don't want to patronize them. And I don't like that, not one bit. I've had to actually go into a store and say, hey, this guy that's sitting there on his cell phone texting, you see like those 100 shopping carts? I don't have a shopping cart. You think he might decide to work today? You know, just little things that we take for granted, but they create a bad impression of a city that we work so hard to try to improve our image. And then also to add on to that, we're back on campaign season. Now, an ordinance was put in place before I got here but I adhered to it. And so I really have a problem when I see people that are running for the state and in the county and other seats having their signage in the right of way. If you're watching, your sign does not belong in the right of way. It is called illegal campaign sign. And I personally don't feel like having to see, click, fix 20, 30, and 40 signs. I also wonder if I see it, does code enforcement see it? Because the people see it. And so, Ms. Subadan, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but when I see it more than 2 days, I feel like when I see it from over 2 days, and I've reported things on See Click Fix, I just feel like people have given up on trying to enforce the laws in our city. In addition to the fact that if you want to continue to do that, you should be fined, which is a deterrent. So I would like to see signs removed, and if they're not removed timely, I'd like to see people fined. And I will actually go to the next code enforcement hearing to make sure that, or to see if we're really serious about the policies that we put in place. We don't do this because we just want to be jerks about it, during campaign season. We had to adhere to it. And we need to be taken seriously as a city since we're trying to keep our city clean. And I yield.
Hey, I wasn't going to say anything, but I do want to ask a follow-up question about that because it is campaign season. I thought the ordinance, and whoever the author of the ordinance is, please, disabuse me of any misinformation I might be giving out. I thought that the ordinance took effect once the election was over, that they had a certain amount of days to clean it up. It's throughout the entire. Okay. I was just asking. It sounds like council is in agreement with that. I hear that it's the law. I will just say I wish that it wasn't. We have a very low voter turnout. At the next council meeting, we will have new maps for all of our districts. Nearly every person in the city of South Fulton has at least one new representative, whether it's Congress or state or Senate. And I just want to make sure that people know who's running, that the election's out. I don't know. But the thing that I did want to comment on, we had a lot of conversation about litter. I agree that we need a more creative and effective long-term campaign, and that there is that's culture change, right? And that takes several years sometimes to happen. I think a very powerful tool in that toolbox is civic pride, and there's just not enough people who know that they live in the city of South Fulton. Every day I talk to people that are still writing Fairburn or whatever zip code is on their address, and I think and we're doing a lot of great work. We've got State of the City coming up in May. We do these Juneteenth celebrations. We're beginning to build this brand identity for South Fulton, but I think the more that people are aware that they are in this city, the more proud they become of the city, the more protective we will all be. And so I just ask folks to be patient as we develop that. And then lastly, there is a lot of work that needs to be done throughout our city, particularly in our parks. We were done no favors by the folks that we inherited these buildings from, and I know that in an upcoming work session, we'll be revisiting our parks master plan and some of the funding strategies that are in that document. So help, I'm sure, is on the way. And with that, I think that is a good segue into our work session topics today, but I will acknowledge Councilwoman Willis. Yes. May 1st. Yeah, we are, working on that. Yes, the State of the City will be May 1st at the Southwest Art Center. It will be our 7th anniversary. We're going to try and hold these states of the cities on our actual city anniversary. So there will be information forthcoming, not only to council, but to all of the constituents. We are working all of those things out. I apologize if people were not aware that we were going to do a State of the City this year, but we are. We haven't done one in a while, and we will be getting that information out by the next meeting. Yes, we're getting the graphics, we're getting everything together. By the next meeting, we are going to have that, and that meeting is next week. So please join us at the Southwest Art Center next week at 4 p.m., 915 New Hope Road, and we will have all of that information for you. There will also be emails forthcoming. We were a little distracted by events at the down at the Gold Dome this week. We were supposed to get that out this week, but some other things took priority, so it is coming. All right, Mr. Clerk, please sound the next item.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, that brings us to Roman numeral 4, presentations. The first presentation is a discussion item regarding fees. This will be presented by Dr. Marc Cooper, Assistant City Manager.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I know this has been a long time coming, so we're going to make this very brief. So in January of 2023, Council did pass a booklet of user fees for facilities within the city. I know through several council meetings since CM Subadan and I have been here that we've heard different questions about different fees and different things that are being charged. So staff and I went through the entire booklet of fees, and these fees that are being presented for specific departments are the ones that basically needed to be changed based on the comparative that was done with each of these fees or each of these categories. So when we look at the big ones with parks and recreation, that's the first, sorry, I have to take my glasses off to read screens and put them back on to read paper. When we look at Parks and Recs, the first category of fees that we're looking at is our annual passes. And we looked at comparable cities around, such as Atlanta, College Park, Clayton County. And those fees per Director Turner should be adjusted accordingly to kind of put us in a competitive nature with the rest of the cities around. Where you see no comparative, basically that city or those cities that we looked at did not have a comparative category for that particular fee, although many of them did reduce. We have our annual passes in the beginning. We have our monthly family passes, which is the next category. And then you have a monthly pass for resident and non-resident. So those fees we are requesting to be, or recommending that they be adjusted accordingly. Next slide, Corey. The next, we have our daily user fees for seniors. Now, the biggest item there, I know that we had someone complain that senior fees were extremely high. However, we don't charge seniors. However, one of the things that Parks and Recs and I did discuss is actually changing the age. We would recommend changing the age for seniors from 65 plus to 55 plus, which would actually open up our Parks and Recreation and our facilities to a broader use and a broader number of people by reducing that age to 55 plus. One of the other major items that we see is we actually charge a daily use fee for veterans of $2, nominal fee, but in discussions with Parks and Recs and others, we decided that we would recommend that we would not charge our veterans just as we would not charge our seniors. Next, we have our CDRA fees, which again there are a number of fees that are being proposed for change, as well as some fees that are being removed and collapsed into others. So when we look at, we have our zoning certification letters, Tier 1 and Tier 2, which is comparable to cities with Atlanta, College Park, and others. Future land use map amendments. We are talking about removing other fees, but those things are collapsed into the fees that you would see above, basically making them all-encompassing. The last three categories are replacing fees from adult entertainment and just calling it one big category of sexually oriented businesses. And those fees would be, are recommended as follows. And the last one I did not get is the business permit application fee. We do have to get some information more from PD before we make a recommendation on that one. Next are basically our fire rescue fees. And a number of these fees, ours are basically help just offset some of the costs for fire. Definitely not to replace any costs, but to actually put us in line with other fire utilities around the city and the different counties, because we do have ours city, and then we had to look at certain counties. The bottom fee, which is the other fees, are for our apparatus fees for filming and different things, and those things are based on FEMA guidelines. Those are not fees that we just looked at or even other cities. These are what FEMA basically has stated should be the guidelines for the city in order for us to maintain what we do. So when you look at the fire apparatus standby for Class A pumper, that's someone that has to be on staff and on site with filming and different things of that nature. So we're looking at a 4-hour minimum at $240 an hour, which would be charged to the filming for that. The last category we have, within the fee structure, council also passed a litany of fees for Wolf Creek Amphitheater. And what we are requesting is that council look at repealing those rates that were approved, because what we would want to do is bring a separate a la carte rate package for Wolf Creek to bring that to council. We think that would be more beneficial for the city to help us, again, offset some of the cost for Wolf Creek and to move it forward. And the last thing I put in the presentation were actually the fees for council review that were approved for Wolf Creek Amphitheater. At that point, I'm open to your questions.
All right, the chair recognizes District 3 Councilwoman Willis.
That was not one that was recommended to be changed. And that puts us, the tennis center, when we did that research, the tennis center fees that we charge are in line. Actually, we are cheaper than others because others are charging certain rates per hour, where we're actually charging either per day or per a 4-hour or 6-hour block. So actually those fees, and I can get you those fees to show you the comparison, but those fees are actually cheaper than what the other municipalities are charging for their tennis centers.
What's the guy that's at the tennis center now, that's running the tennis center, that's helping us? Is it Herb? Mr. Herb was supposed to help with the research, and from my understanding, they sent the research to you, but I've never seen it. And so I want to see the research, the comparative, because we really got beat up on what we are charging for people to pay to use the tennis center and to have tournaments. And so that was, I know, over 6 months ago. And Mr. Herb said he submitted that information over to you all.
That was the information that we were looking at, but I will provide that to you.
Okay, can I get it tomorrow? Because you all had it.
Sure, I'll ship it.
Okay. The other thing is with the Wolf Creek Amphitheater, what I want to make sure that we look at is preventing people from renting that amphitheater under false pretenses. What I mean is renting the amphitheater for one reason and then they actually are having a full-fledged concert. Like, we're not the only city that has an amphitheater. And we don't have to recreate the wheel, but if we could just look at the best practices of other cities, not only in Metro Atlanta, but I know Atlanta has them, Stockbridge has them, and it's doing very well. Mableton has it, it's run by the county. Several people have amphitheaters, and I just recall a situation where a person rented an amphitheater, paid $10,000, and then went on the radio and advertised they were doing a full-fledged concert there.
And that's one of the reasons why we're asking for that repeal, because under the current process, that's what it is. It's $10,000, and basically they pay it, they do what they do at the amphitheater. So that's one of the reasons why we're asking for an appeal, so we can bring that a la carte package back to council, so we can kind of prevent some of those things. I mean, a lot of that is addressed in the user agreements that you would write up with them. But as it stands right now, there are no user agreements except for the fact that if you pay the fee, you use the amphitheater.
Okay, so I think when we incurred the amphitheater, we lacked expertise and experience in that area, and that should have never been done. When you talk about having a full-fledged concert, you got to have security plan, vending, ticketing, all of that into play. So we need to repeal that ASAP. And how soon can you all bring a recommendation back to us on how we should handle that main attraction in our city?
Well, we're already in the process of working on that. We got a lot of the information that we need. Our Wolf Creek manager, who just came on with us some months ago, have been diligently working, pulling all that information, visiting other amphitheaters and talking to the individuals that run those, so we can bring that comprehensive back. I would gauge to say by the second meeting in April, we can have that for you.
So would you recommend that we bring the repeal back by next council meeting, which will be next week, to prohibit anyone from doing that? Because that's a huge liability.
Yes, it would be my recommendation that we look at the entire rate package for the next council meeting. That's what the idea was, to bring the whole thing back with the repeal of Wolf Creek to the next council meeting.
All right, thank you. I yield.
The chair recognizes District 4, Councilman Sebastian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Dr. Cooper, for your presentation. Can you just help clarify something for me? Under the CDRA fees, how are the tiers defined?
That I'm going to ask Director McClendon.
Thank you, Reggie.
And are they new, the tiers?
Are they new?
Uh-huh.
They are, and these are tiers of zoning certification letters. The first tier, there are two tiers. Tier 1 is is your basic certification of zoning, meaning you would come to us just for us to tell you what is the zoning of a particular parcel of land. And we would give you a letter saying that this is the zoning designation, and mostly people use that letter to when they're going to get a loan on the property. Tier 2 is is a more in-depth letter that would point out any nonconformities on the property. And so usually what we will do is we will require that person who is requesting that letter to give us more information about the property. And then we will do more research on that property. We'll tell them where that property does not conform to our current zoning conditions and our current zoning code, and potentially what it would take for that property to come into conformity. In that way, they'll know how they would need to go forward with developing that property if they were looking to redevelop it.
So it looks like items here on the CDR 1, 2, and 3 are new categories, and 4 to 7 were folded into the first 3.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
thank you.
The chair recognizes District 1, Dr. Rao.
Thank you, and thank you for the tiered letters, because I've grown real weary of people coming up here and saying what they didn't know about what was supposed to happen on their property, and if this is a step closer to that, I think it's an important one. I also think we need to make sure our website kind of makes it clear for somebody before they do anything, before they think about opening a business, what they should do to verify the zoning that's in place. I'm finding I've gotten a lot of calls here lately about people who've let their business license lapse and they don't understand we've updated our code and all these things. And, you know, I'm like, as a business owner, it is their responsibility to be familiar with the laws in the cities that they're operating. But if CDR, city manager, could work with making sure our website walks people through the process so they understand, I think it'll save a lot of things we see happening coming before us about a rezoning, or they didn't spend $1 gazillion. I'm like, that's real old at this point. Thank you.
Chair recognizes District 4, Councilman Sebastian. Oh, okay, I thought you said you were in the queue. All right, so the March 1st, BMF, those of you all who watch Stars, debuted. It is the highest rated show across black households on television, and it's filmed here in the city of South Fulton. I'm not sure, all respect to creators, I love you, I don't want to, be greedy and kill anybody's business. I'm not sure that we are collecting all of the revenues that we should for all of the filming that is happening. And last year at our South Fulton Municipal Association, we had a presentation from someone who set up a department to capture all those revenues, but also it had software that coordinated with all of the street closings that we have around the city. And so I think that is something that, as we are reevaluating these fees, we should revisit. We can look at the Film Office of Atlanta or East Point or DeKalb County to really see how they are maximizing, because people love to film here, and we are one of the only cities in the metro area that have like rural vistas like Enon Ranch and Cedar Grove, where they film Stranger Things, which is one of the highest rated shows on television, period, across all demographics. So I just want to make sure that as people are building studios all around us, hopefully we'll get some more of this studio business and get a studio or two of our own in addition to the ones we already have here. I would like to see that happen. And then just to piggyback off of Councilwoman Willis's comments about Wolf Creek, I don't know that we are still yet technically ready when people are coming asking information about concerts. We are not able to give what's called like a promoter's package, which just gives all the technical specifics about Wolf Creek and what, I come out of that business. I know people who've inquired about that, and so just making sure that we're able to maximize the revenues at Wolf Creek would probably also help if our lots were paved and striped. And we have and we have parking fees, which we're going to be talking about next. So I think those things are all underway, but I just want to make sure that we're thinking about all of those. Thank you so much, Dr. Cooper, for all the hard work that you put in. Mr. Clerk, please sound the next item.
Next item is a discussion item, alcohol in parks, cultural fair spaces. This will be presented by City Attorney Vincent D. Hyman.
So you all have, we've been circling around this for some time. I'm glad that we are actually able to have this discussion as summer is quickly approaching.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I think I either got roped in or hoodwinked into this presentation, but regardless, I am here. What's before you, and for some council members, this may be deja vu or new to others, depending on when you came to council. But what's on the screen now is kind of a diagram that's not strictly how a process would flow, but just kind of a visual aid. And really, the slide was more geared towards alcohol consumption and sales in public facilities, whether it be Wolf Creek or other public facilities that we own. But I do have some information as relates to alcohol sales that would be for parks. But currently, we do have legislation that would allow you to select those public facilities for if it's a private vendor that wants to rent a public facility to sell alcohol, or if the city's hosting an event that wants to sell alcohol. The requesters, I kind of envision it, would come in and they would submit their application. It would go to Community Development Regulatory Affairs, and then they in turn would ask them what facility or what type of event, are you selling alcohol, things of that nature. And then if it's on the public side, then we would go to our ordinance and find what public facility has been designated for alcohol sales, and then they would then in turn go through the regular process that police does to do background check for any alcohol applicant. As it relates to alcohol sales in parks, there is no legislation that the city has. It's just strictly prohibited. I've looked at some legislation from the city of Atlanta. They do have an ordinance that allows or regulates the sale of alcohol in parks, and they basically have what's called an outdoor festival permit, in which they would allow that if you get the permit, they have what they call per day pouring fees. So if the event is going to be 3 or 4 days, then they're charged a fee each day for those alcohol sales. Nonprofit, according to that statute, is $25. Other events may be anywhere from $50 to $100. So as someone had mentioned, this is more of a discussion because we have, you can go to the next slide. We previously had a resolution, it bounced back. This is the section we currently have under the City of South Fulton Ordinance 164002. You have a B and a C part. What's highlighted here is the B portion that goes to private parties, and go to the next slide. And then you have the C that relates to the City of South Fulton. The last time this was before council, it was in form of resolution, and council at that time designated Wolf Creek and then the Southwest Arts Center. And however, there were other council members that wanted to have a further discussion as to whether or not they could designate other public facilities. And so this is why we're back before you today. Next slide. This was the resolution. Actually, it was first introduced in 2023, and I just changed it to 2024. And basically, in the whereas provisions, there is a whereas section that would authorize private parties to apply for an alcohol special events permit, as well as a city could do it as well. Once a public facility is designated as being able to sell and consume alcohol, then as I illustrated in the previous flow diagram, that vendor or requester would go through the process of CDRA, police verification, and things of that nature. So really the first step is council just deciding where you want to have, if you want to have it all sales of alcohol in public facilities or as well as public parks. If council decides it wants to do public parks, then that would just be a new ordinance that would have to be enacted. That concludes my presentation. With long.
All right. Thank you. Before I go to the queue, I do want to just ask a clarifying question and put some questions to council to consider as we are having this conversation. The first is, I've heard mixed things about Southwest Art Center. So people are or are not allowed to sell alcohol at Southwest Art Center? They are. Because I've gone to events and I've heard from people that they were not allowed. And I don't know if there's some confusion in our ordinance, because even yourself, Mr. Hyman, you said that it wasn't allowed, but then it was allowed. So, I think that confusion has permeated. So just for the record, people that are doing plays and shows at Southwest Art Center are allowed to sell alcohol.
Until it is designated the official way, they're not supposed to. Like, for example, the resolution designated, but I don't think council ever passed it.
So see, there's even confusion now. So we got to fix that. That's great. That's great. That's good to know.
And I think that's why council, this subject came up, is that to do it the correct way, then Wolf Creek and Southwest needed to be designated to do it the correct way.
And so I'm sure we're about to have a robust discussion, and we're gonna follow the rules of decorum. I'm confident in that. The two questions that come immediately to my mind that I would like for us to consider as we are going through this discussion are these. The first is, do we want to allow this at certain facilities, or do we want to allow it at all facilities? My understanding is, from talking with people in the city of Atlanta, is that there are certain parks where it is allowed. Piedmont Park, Phoenix Park, I think maybe Washington Park. And then there are other parks where it isn't allowed, so that I think it helps with enforcement, and it may also help with families who just maybe don't want to be around that. They know that when they go to this park, it's not an option. So if we are going to do that, that might streamline the decision-making of how we give the permits out. And then the second question is, is there a way to, again, this is for discussion, is there a way to do this process where it is left to staff, and every time someone wants an event with alcohol, it doesn't have to come to council? Because I think that can be, in addition to being politicized, it can also just add a whole bunch of things to our agenda. We've got an issue with events on our agenda now where we're trying to streamline it. And so those are my questions for the group, but it sounds like you might have okay. All right, and with that, I am going to open this discussion up. The chair recognizes District 7 Councilwoman Pritchett.
Thank you for recognizing me again, Mr. Mayor. Attorney Hyman, with this resolution, will there be a fee for insurance for the liquor pourer to have a bond amount or an amount for insurance?
Currently, if you're going to use, once if you designate a particular facility and they're going through the process, I can't speak 100%, but I do believe at some point in time during the permitting process that there is a requirement of checking whether or not you have adequate insurance, just like you would be required to make sure about safety concerns, things of that nature. The key here for the first step is just that before the permitting department, CRA, even can touch it, that facility has to be designated to sell alcohol. And so that's what you're really kind of dealing with today, is just trying to figure out what public facilities would you want to allow either private organization or the city events to hold alcohol. And I would keep them separate in terms of facilities versus parks, because outdoor events to me is separate because we don't have orders for that. So really, if you're thinking in your district, particular area, is there a particular public building facility that you think would be capable of hosting events and alcohol? Because we already have that If you're talking about outdoor events in parks, then that's an ordinance that can be crafted and then take your input as being crafted.
I think, though, to Councilwoman Pritchett's question, anytime we're serving alcohol and people may or may not leave one of our facilities intoxicated, we want to make sure that we are indemnified from the risk of that. And so if they are carrying additional insurance, like, and maybe Chief Meadows, you have some thoughts about when we do offer that.
I can
What
clarify
are the
I can
safeguards?
clarify my
Yeah.
question.
I get your question, and I think part of the process of routing that at some point in time as part of the process, it would go through risk management to determine the appropriate bonding or insurance requirements.
So, I know that alcohol was served at Wolf Creek last year, and I believe it was served by a business that does have, or several businesses that currently have liquor licenses within our city, and they have their requirements. However, the difference in this, I understand what you're saying, is two different things, allowing the venues to have it, but Wolf Creek had alcohol sales several times during the last event year cycle. And I don't, however, now we're talking about not just businesses, you're talking about people saying, hey, I want to have liquor, or I want to pour or serve liquor at an event like a park or something like that. Recently, someone wanted to have alcohol at an event, and they were instructed to get fingerprinted, go through the whole process to get a liquor license. But I really don't understand how someone can obtain a liquor license without actually being a restaurant or a brick and mortar, that type of thing. So that's one thing. Another thing is, if we do go down in this direction, I would like to see in any situation like this, where it's a private entity versus a business that already has a business license, I would like to see police presence, or them required to have to pay a police personnel to be on site, so that we can ensure safety and stuff like that. So I think we're talking about like 3 different things, because we have businesses that have, like, they're food trucks that some businesses in Atlanta have. You'll go there to eat, but while you're waiting, Atlanta Breakfast Club, while you're waiting, the food truck serves mimosas. And that happens actually in the city of South Fulton too. So we have to look at the food trucks, the businesses that have liquor licenses, then this individual thing about pouring or open containers. I know that people were very upset last year about Wolf Creek bringing, glass, but they didn't understand that when glass breaks, it's a weapon, and that's really, from the risk management side of things, that's what I believe was the concern, not trying to tell people what to do and how to party. So I yield with that.
All right, the chair recognizes District 1, Councilwoman Dr. Rao.
I guess I'm confused, because I remember we had a whole long discussion on this, and we got to the point where we said that we were moving forward, so I'm perplexed that this is not passed. I don't know, we just talked all night and forgot to vote. Oh, you're clarifying we did vote? Or, okay.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
So it is true. We brought it because we recognized it as a cleanup item
Okay.
for Wolf Creek and for Southwest Arts Center. It was never approved. We brought it as a resolution, or as an ordinance. Resolution, and it wasn't approved because there was more discussion about other sites where some council members wanted us to include. So it was tabled, and we decided, you know what, let's bring it back. And the kind of the legal framework presented in its entirety, not just about, I was just trying to do a cleanup item for the two cultural affairs sites. But there was the desire to have a larger discussion around other sites, so it was never voted on.
Thank you for that clarification. And Councilwoman Pritchett is correct, because there are two separate sections of code. We determined, and I think this had to do with the breakout of the cultural affairs, now that I'm recalling, that these were cultural affairs facilities. The park ordinance prohibited it in parks. And so it sounds like it's prudent that we adopt this because, again, we're talking about having festivals we're getting in summer. So, but it's only on discussion. Is this being moved to the regular meeting, or I'm just trying to get clarification. If we're doing cleanup.
I think we're having discussion. So we said that we wanted to do it at these two places. That's the first part. Do we want to do it anywhere else? That's the first part. And then the second part is, even where we said we wanted to do it, I'm not sure we've clearly outlined the regulation around it or the process. Some of that will be a city manager, like how we operationalize it. But I think that they need a little bit more from us on what we want it to look like.
Right, so I'm clear. I'm saying that this is separate and apart because they're in different parts of code. Like he said, in parks it's currently prohibited, period. And I think the discussion, when we broke away the two departments, those were cultural affairs departments, if I recall. We talked about that these are cultural facilities. And again, I didn't realize, I know we talked about other facilities, but I didn't realize we didn't pass this. So this, to me, needs to happen as per the recommendation of the city manager, so we're operating in a way that's...
Well, just as a follow-up, Madam City Manager, is there something that's specific is there some detail that you need from us to turn this into legislation? Is there any sort of operational procedural question about how to make this happen at Wolf Creek or how to make it happen at Southwest Arts Center?
Staff can do that.
Resolution needs
We
to
just
be
have to
passed.
adopt
Just a resolution, there's nothing else.
On those two,
Okay.
because the attorney's standing.
Yeah, he just
Yeah, those
updated
two.
it. He showed us the update.
You have the resolution already drafted. It's just a question of whether or not you want to add any other public facilities to it.
Well, can we add other public facilities to it if they're in two different things of code, or do you need two separate resolutions?
There's a difference between parks and public facilities.
Right.
This is dealing with public facilities, i.e. Wolf Creek and Southwest Arts Center. And if my recollection was correct, there were some council members that were interested in seeing whether or not other public facilities in their district could have alcohol. That was my recollection.
What can you say what are examples of other public facilities?
Anything that we own that's a public building that's not a park. I mean, I don't know where
Okay.
those all those
Got
things
it.
are.
A building that's not a park. Got it.
Right.
Got it. We're gonna go back to the queue. The chair recognizes District 6 Councilwoman Natasha Williams-Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the only question that I have in regards to this, and Chief Meadows, this may be something that you can speak to. Alcohol is very broad, but there is a very marked difference between beer and wine and spirits. And so when we're saying alcohol, but what specifically are we saying? Because, beer and wine is going to affects people differently than, Maker's Mark and Grey Goose in 1800. And so, people, people act differently. I mean, this is just the reality, that people, the amount you have to consume to become intoxicated is a lot less if we're talking about spirits than we may be talking about beer and wine, depending on people's tolerance, chemistry, DNA, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, within that context, exactly what kind of alcohol are we talking about? Because I think that may, for me, that makes a difference in how I think about adopting this resolution or not adopting this resolution.
The Chief can correct me. I think alcohol is your broader category, and then you start to get more refined in terms of beer, wine, and spirits and that nature. So currently, as is, there's no alcohol, which would include spirits, wines, or any other kind of deal that had above NyQuil that you could consume in a public facility. So.
Right, but you know, NyQuil in the right hands, people are creative.
I remember when it's 25%.
Let's walk in a little reality. People are very creative. So then, Chief Meadows, would you have a recommendation along those lines about the specific type of alcohol that would be the most appropriate, considering liability issues and risk?
Well, I'll leave the liability issues with the city attorney, but normally when we give special events permits, it includes the whole broad spectrum. It's alcohol, beer, wine, and so forth. Now, you do have some organizations that will come in and specifically ask for beer and wine. And so, and we don't take issue with that at all. Certainly some of the beer and wine alcohol permits are, I believe they're less expensive. They're a little less expensive than the alcohol permits, but certainly we don't object to either one.
Thank you.
The chair recognizes District 4 Councilman Sebastian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I recall from our previous discussion that we had some chatter around bottles, especially at Wolf Creek. And if the use of bottles is a policy that is Wolf Creek based versus if we are adopting this particular resolution, there's nothing in here about container types at all to public facilities. How would we handle, is that just local policy? Because what I'm afraid of is that people see this and it has no clarification or mention of the type of containers.
Right.
And they're thinking they have the right to bring any container that they want into facilities because it's not spelled out here.
So part of our approval process extends to risk management. Eric Runyon, he'll sit down and review the vendor's insurance and the city's insurance. And it's my understanding our carrier would not carry us for any alcohol-related events. So it becomes extremely important for us to try to mitigate certain circumstances. And so to that end, we've adopted an internal policy where no glass will be allowed under those circumstances. And so we would prefer to continue along those lines because it's not necessarily that the glass bottle would be used as a weapon. It could break and someone could cut their foot on it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still some extension to that liability. And so what we're trying to do is mitigate as many of those circumstances as we possibly can.
So making that a part of the basic resolution, because we're talking about now our facilities that we own.
If the park rules are part of that, then yes. I mean, absolutely.
So you're saying we should?
Yes.
Okay. I really want to make sure that we tackle this piece so that we don't put it out without that in mind, and then we later on end up with a problem of people saying, I have the right to bring bottles.
Right.
Especially because we are focusing on these two facilities particularly.
Absolutely.
Okay, so does that mean we'll have to amend this resolution, Mr. Hyman?
Since this is being work session and it hasn't come forward, I can easily add the no glass containers or bottles to it before it comes for council.
Okay, thank you.
The chair recognizes District 3 Councilwoman Willis.
where I have concern is allowing alcohol in parks when we have youth games going on. That's never a good mix. Alcohol, youth games, and where tempers and contention may occur. I do believe that city officials, if we have special events, that we should be afforded the opportunity to go through the proper protocol and have alcohol at special events that we may have. For example, we had an event at the tennis center, and we did not have a mechanism to have alcohol there. And it was an adult event. It was secured because we had staff, police officers, and public safety. And it was, not any liability. But I am concerned just openly allowing people to have alcohol or apply for permits where you have youth games. So I still would like to have some restriction around that. But I would like to have less restriction around city officials hosting events and being able to have alcohol at certain special events. And if anything happens at those events that we host and we put our name on, then we have to be held accountable. Maybe our privileges will be taken away if anything happens and we at events that we host and we're responsible for, as a council, we can decide, in executive session how we want to deal with that. But I just feel that we should have the ability to have those things or be able to provide or have a mechanism to sell alcohol at special events that we may host.
Councilman Wilson, I just want to make sure this is clear. Right now, and without going too back in reverse history, the reason that Wolf Creek and Southwest were initially classified as parks was really for the payment or the difference in price when it's being transferred. But are they really technically parks? That's a whole nother issue, but that's why, for the purposes of this resolution, public facility, it gives the ability for city council or a private entity, if it's designated as such, you can sell alcohol, and that's where we put in there, no glass containers, it would go through the background check. But now if you're talking about something like a tennis center or actual park, then we'd have to do the ordinance and then have to put provisions as to when alcohol could be sold and under what circumstances, as you mentioned. So if you're talking about like a tennis center or a true park, then we'd have to bring an ordinance together separate from this resolution.
Okay, so right now, we're just dealing with public facilities.
And just having a discussion about whether or not anybody wanted alcohol in parks, and if you did, it'd be a separate ordinance.
Okay, so we are having a discussion about whether or not we want alcohol in parks, right?
Exactly.
So my discussion is that I feel that public officials should be allowed to have or provide or allow a certified vendor to sell alcohol at special events that we may have. That's my discussion.
Can I ask a question?
Well,
After you hear from the attorney.
That's my discussion. I further stated in my discussion that I am not comfortable with allowing alcohol to be freely sold or provided in parks with individuals where youth sports are happening. So whatever resolution or orders that needs to be, that is my discussion and what I'm asking and what I'm offering. And I further gave an example of how when I had something at the tennis center and I would have wanted to have an alcohol vendor or alcohol served, and I did not have a mechanism to do that. And I guess my question would be to you or Chief, do you all understand what I'm saying? Am I asking for something that's not?
I'm jotting down your request, and that would take the form of an ordinance as it relates to alcohol sales in parks. Yeah.
So my question is, if I wanted to have an event at the tennis center, what's the thing we had? A social, every girl shine social. And I wanted to have wine, not necessarily sold, but, you know, sponsor a vendor or whatever, or somebody sponsor a vendor to come and serve wine. How would you recommend that I go about doing that?
And I missed part of the conversation. From what I'm getting, Councilman Willis, is that there's a desire to have a legislation or an ordinance to where it would allow city officials at events to have alcohol vended there, and that it would be, if you wouldn't want it in parks where you have kids or anything like this, and be freely sold by other individuals. That's what I gather thus far, and that would travel in the form of, like, for example, City of Atlanta does in the form of an outdoor festival permit, and they have provisions about pours, license, and things of that nature. So that's why I'm just jotting this down to where it can be framed in the form of ordinance and brought back to you to accomplish what you're seeking.
So what I'm saying is, we have a lot of youth football games. We have a lot of youth baseball games. What I wouldn't want to see is alcohol sold at those type of events, or a lot of those type of events. But if I have something at a tennis center, or say I have something adult like here, we have jazz and cocoa sometimes. What if we wanted some people who wanted something in their cocoa? You know, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind an adult beverage being offered or served or sold in instances like that. So while I said that we should, as the elected officials, be afforded the opportunities to have a host or provide alcohol at those events, we shouldn't just be limited to Southwest Arts Center or the amphitheater. You know, if we wanted to have something at parks and it's a special event, how do we go about getting that done?
Through an ordinance. That's what I'm saying. This resolution is dealing with public facilities that are not parks, and so I bring what you're requesting in the form of ordinance to accomplish that.
Right, but you said we were also having a discussion about what I'm asking. I understand what you're saying, that we were addressing facilities, but you said we were also having a discussion about when we should, or if we should, allow this alcohol in the parks.
Right, that was brought up during this conversation.
Okay, and so those are my discussion points. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I wanna ask some clarifying questions. But first, I do want to make this statement, and this is just my opinion and my experience. Back when I was a councilman, and to some extent when I was a mayor, but I don't really do events, people would come to me and ask if I would sponsor an event so that they could get the stage for free, right? And then there was like some confusion about who paid for police, if it was a city-sponsored event versus another event. I don't want people to start coming to y'all just because they want alcohol and like that's the only way because it's a council. So I don't know that is the right way to do it, but when I was asking clarifying questions in the beginning, you talked about public facilities and you made it sound like buildings were public facilities. Well, this is a building, but it's in a park. The tennis center is a building, but it's in a park. So if someone wants to have an event and rent out a tennis center, right, it doesn't mean, well, let me just give you this fact pattern. People are, it's like Saturday at the tennis center, and someone wants to rent out the top floor of this tennis center to have an event. But people are playing tennis on the courts. Is the tennis center a public facility or is it a park? And if they want to have the event, is there a way that we can say you are renting out this space and you can have alcohol in this event, but you can't take your margarita, even if it's in a plastic cup, you can't take it down to the tennis court?
Let me make sure that, so make it, buildings that are not, or facilities that are in no way connected on the situs of a park or connected to a park, which Southwest Arts Center and Wolf Creek are not. Now for like Welcome All and tennis centers, which they have a building as a park, that would come under a separate ordinance.
So if someone wanted to have an event, because I think this is good. If someone wants to have an event at the tennis center, they would be governed by the parks ordinance and not the public facilities ordinance.
Exactly. The facilities, you already have 16-4002 that says you can do it through resolution for a public facility that is not a park or connect to a park. I, during the discussion, said that you could do an ordinance that would address parks or things associated with parks, because currently they're prohibited. And I've been taking notes as to what council is contemplating for what I call a parks, alcohol and parks ordinance.
So to be clear, other than the Southwest Art Center and Wolf Creek, is there any other public facility in the city of South Fulton? Because if not, we can put that whole thing aside and just talk about parks.
I can tell you all the fields. I mean that.
The Economic Development Office. Okay. All right. Okay, I got it. I got it. And then my last question about the public. So I'm going to stick to the public facility side for a second. Would people be allowed, when we're saying no bottles, of course you couldn't bring your own bottle into a play at the Southwest Art Center, but if there is a winemaker or a liquor maker that has bottles, they can bring their bottles in and then sell things by the glass and give them to like in plastic cups, right? The bottle, having no bottles doesn't apply to the vendors, that applies to individuals not being able to bring bottles in.
I think that's the understanding, is that it's the general patrons that would be walking around with the bottles.
All right, I'll go back to the queue. The chair recognizes Councilman Sebastian.
Thank you, ma'am. I would be very uncomfortable if we come up with a procedure that allows us to use alcohol in our facility that the public and taxpayers don't have the same right to. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but I think if we're going to do it for our events, we should do it for the public. And as was mentioned before, we try and come up with some rules around how those things are executed and security and all that stuff and insurance. But certainly I am not really in agreement with just us having, and also I keep hearing two things being said when it comes to alcohol. I keep hearing sales, and sometimes I'm hearing served. I'm not sure if those are one and the same. For instance, if a family is having a family reunion and they want to have alcohol, they're not selling alcohol, but they might be serving alcohol. Different from an event, and I think that's what we're talking about mostly seemingly by default, where people would be selling alcohol. So again, thoughts around serving alcohol versus selling alcohol, there might be some differences there. right? But, okay, so I'll have the floor. I'm saying we're discussing this, right? So I'm just saying, if we're thinking about doing this, let's think about sales versus, because I've had people do family reunions in the parks in District 4 that are open, right? And I don't see them, but I'm sure they have alcohol, right? Because I'm not sure if they know they're not supposed to do it. So I'm just saying, if we're going to be discussing this, then let's make a provision for it, for people serving as well as selling alcohol. Okay? Thank you.
Councilwoman Bell.
Thank you for recognizing me, Mayor. We've made a lot of ballot points regarding parks, public facilities, and though Burdette Park is in Burdette Gymnasium is in my district, the field and the park is down the street. So we have to be clear on selling, serving, consuming. We also have to be clear on what we consider a public facility versus an actual park. As Councilwoman Willis mentioned, we have a lot of different events that would add an additional ambiance or add to our events that where we may want to add beer or wine. And so I definitely am interested in creating an ordinance, a separate ordinance outside of the ordinance that we're discussing, to be able to allow not necessarily spirits, but beer or wine. You know, I have an upcoming jazz event that will be in May, and I would love to have, whether we're selling, consuming, or purchasing, I would love to be able to have wine as an additional value of that event that will only include adults. I'm going to be perfectly honest, a lot of our parks people are consuming alcoholic beverages currently. So we have to be clear on the ordinances that we're creating to define the containers, to define consumption, whether we're purchasing it, whether we're bringing our many little packages or whatever personal packages that people bring, because they're going to utilize and consume alcoholic beverages, whether it's wine, whether it's beer, whether it's Grey Goose, whether it's 1800, what have you. So I am definitely interested in us creating an ordinance to allow it, not just specifically for elected officials, but if I am reserving a space and want to allow or have beer, wine, or spirits, I should have the opportunity to do that, whether that means me paying or applying for an additional permit or licensing, then that should also be an opportunity, an option. Because again, if I am reserving and paying a fee, then I want to be able to have all options that could potentially be available. So those are just how I feel about the alcoholic beverages. And I yield.
The chair recognizes Councilwoman Willis.
And so I would like to work with Councilmember Bell and Councilmember Gums on this ordinance. With you, Attorney Hyman, because we have had several discussions about this previously. I know specifically with these two ladies, that we can also put in this ordinance, in my opinion, restrictions, meaning that alcohol is prohibited at youth sports games. Alcohol is prohibited for anyone under the age of 21. Is there a way that we can have individuals who get permitting for alcohol to sign a waiver saying that we are free from liability if they don't monitor, or I don't know what the language could be, the alcohol consumption? If someone goes out and get into some type of car accident or accident, that the city is free from liability. The onus will be on the organizer. We need to make sure that if they do have, they get a permit to have alcohol at their events, that they are required to have, we need to consult with the risk manager to see, not only do we prohibit glass bottles, but if they have to have a certain amount of insurance. So those are some things that I would throw out at you. And then I also talk with some of my colleagues in the other cities to see what other things, and also talk with Chief Meadows to find out what his recommendations are. But I know we can't workshop all of that tonight, but that's why I said maybe we can have a conference call and bring our ideas and recommendations back, and include, if the city manager, if you don't mind, someone from your office and the chief of fire and police, because a lot of times we include Chief Meadows in discussion, and there's also a fire emergency medical service component to it as well. Thank you. I yield.
Councilman Willis, I would like to ask I know y'all are going to workshop this, but I want to ask a clarifying question, which I think will lead into our last discussion point. A hypothetical fact pattern. There is, because Welcome All is a big park, and we have other big parks, but let's say there is a Welcome All, down on the fields, the athletic associations are having a game, right? Clear, we don't want alcohol there. But up here in the gazebo, J.C. Sebastian's family
No, we won't be serving
is having a family reunion in the gazebo, and maybe they want to bring some rum from the islands, right?
Yeah.
So would you be comfortable having both of those events in the park at the same time, or is your preference to not have anything like that at the gazebo while people are playing on the field?
Thank you. That's a great question. So when we have our youth sports games, they're typically at specific fields. For example, when you have a football game there, it's out on a football field. Alcohol is prohibited around youth sports games. So they should not have alcohol around the youth sports game, period. They shouldn't have alcohol around the football field, on the football field, around the football field. They shouldn't even have it at the baseball field. Now, we know that there are people who do it, because I've seen the Tito bottles. But what I'm saying is, if they're caught, we do have park rangers that work in our park. So if they're caught, with alcohol around our youth sports games, then yeah, they can be cited. We have provisions in place for that. That's up to public safety to enforce that. But if they're all the way up on a gazebo and they have the proper licensing and permitting and insurance, then it is what it is. They shouldn't be commingled anyway. I mean, the football game is on the football field. Baseball, we have baseball field. We have tennis courts. So it's easy to identify. And then we also have a provision in our park ordinance, if they're going to have a large event, they have to specify that. And they have to have a certain security plan around large events. And so, that's something for our staff to determine. If we have a huge youth football game going on, then why would you allow a large event at the same time? I just think that's staff. That's on staff to decipher and determine that.
Okay. Thank you so much. Did you have something, Dr. Rowe? Okay, go ahead, Dr. Rowe.
I'm just going to say this. This is a very slippery slope, I believe. I remember when we first introduced the park ordinance, we had literally everything going on in our parks. And we worked really hard to clean up some of that activity. And, of course, you have people who slip through and do things. But I understand a festival, those kind of things. I just want us to think intently about this, because I know we don't currently have enough park rangers and enough police to deal with what we might be opening the door for. And I'll leave it right there and see what happens when it comes back. But we really need to think this through about what makes sense and what we had a staff to handle.
Thank you. Thank you, which brings us to our next part of this discussion.
Last discussion item for this evening is charging for parking at parks, cultural fair spaces. It's briefly presented by Director Ternard Turner, Department of Parks and Recreation.
Greetings, Mayor and Council. I'm here today to talk about the parking fees and entry fees. The first slide I have kind of talks about. So the first slide kind of defines, gives a clear definition of parking fees and entry fees and kind of what that looks like. So for an example, you have athletic fees, which would be athletic associations that we have when we have different tournaments, baseball tournaments, football tournaments. You also have concert and performance fees that include outdoor festivals, Juneteenth celebrations, things of that nature. You also have festivals and fairs that we may have in the city. And we also have special events such as holiday celebration and things of that nature. So these are the parking fees and the entry fees, specifically what different agencies are charging for. Also, one of the things I wanted to do is give it a comparison. So these are the municipalities that are charging for these fees. I'll give you an example. When we play in the GRPA, we go to College Park. We have to pay $10 per person to go in. Normally what they do, they'll charge $10 a person. And then if you do a weekend on a Saturday, Friday and Saturday, it may be $15. So they get somewhat of a discount. So every time we play in the GRPA, in East Point, College Park, Savannah, Albany, parents go down and they charge the fee. And in some cases, even a parking fee is charged. And normally that parking fee is minimal, but it may be between $5 and $10. And like I said, if you're doing consecutive days, they give you a slight discount. The next slide kind of talks about what Atlanta is charging for fees. These fees are based on industry standards and the event type. So I gave a definition of an event type on the first slide deck, so you can refer back to that. But these are kind of the fees. The fees are really minimal as it relates to the parking fees. They range from $5 to $10. And like I said before, they're really based on industry standards. My recommendations, when you look at fees, you have small events, medium events, and you also have large events. And you have special events that are non-city sponsored events that based on promoter or event type. And that would be things we're probably having at Wolf Creek when you have a promoter, you do an RFP, and they're charging for parking. So they get to kind of dictate what that parking structure or fee looks like. And the last slide kind of talks about why you should charge these fees for revenue generation, cost of recovery, things of that nature, cleanup. And so agencies are doing creative things as it relates to why they're charging and what those fees are going through, like such as, give you an example, I know Atlanta had an enterprise fund, so some of those fees were going to those parks. So if they had an event at Washington Park and they charged for parking, all those fees would go strictly to Washington Park for enhancement, beautification, and things of that nature. So that with that being said, I would take any questions.
All right, I'm going to ask the first question. One of the first times I heard this were because we were just talking about alcohol. So when you have alcohol, or when you have people that have not private events, when they have events at parks, they got to pay for police, they got to pay for EMS services, they got to pay for enhanced insurance. And their comeback is, well, then can we charge for parking to pay for these events? So I don't know how it happens when people have like the Shaky Knees Festival or the Dogwood Festival. Like, I don't know if Atlanta's collecting the money. Does the festival promoter collect the money? I'm sure some of it does go back to like police and fire and all these things. What is your recommendation around that? And then if can people rent a park? I know in some places they can rent a park, which also means they get the parking spaces, and they charge on the parking spaces to pay for the park rental.
Sure. So let's go back to your initial question. So what I would say is, if you're If you have let's say at Wolf Creek, let's take Wolf Creek, that's a good example, and the promoter, you RFP it, and the promoter comes in, and I'm assuming a part of that contract allows them to probably charge for parking, right? That parking would be assessed based on whatever the promoter says, not based on the city. Because they're actually have a RFP with the city to rent that facility or 4, 5, or 10 concerts. So my proposal would be to let them assess that fee based on whatever that promoter says that fee should be assessed. Now, when it comes to, we have Championship Saturday, right, here at Welcome Mall. We can charge for parking. It could be $5. Now, what I would say, those fees will be collected from the agency, which is the city of South Fulton. I would do non-cash. There's an app that you can go to. When my son plays basketball all the time, there's an app you go to and you pay on the spot, or there's a QR code. So I wouldn't do any cash handling. Everything would be done through an app. So you can assess those fees, and they could be $5, they could be $2, they could be $1. But what I can tell you is that every time I go to a basketball tournament, there is a fee being charged somewhere in the Metro Atlanta area. I can tell you that. So did I answer all your questions? Was there?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
I think we still have to. I think we may still have to figure out if and when we're going to let people, like Wolf Creek is that's an obvious one.
Sure.
But like, can someone rent Creel Park or Wilkerson Mill Park for an event and then charge for parking there and that? So you bring up the queue. I'll recognize whoever's first.
You should.
No, it's not. We're not right. My understanding is that currently, no one can charge for parking anywhere in any of our parks.
No.
Yeah.
People can't rent out.
No, you can't rent out Creel Park. Can you rent? Can you?
You can rent out the pavilion.
But that's not.
The pavilion can be rented out.
You can, but you can't rent out. But like, if you have 50 people, you can't say, "Well, I'm going to
Charge for
reserve
parking.
10 of these parking spaces for my event
Sure,
at the pavilion." The chair recognizes District 3 Councilman Willis.
You know, I have to give a little pushback because I've only been raised and lived in Savannah my whole life and still go there once a month, try to go there once a month to see about my dad. And when I am there, I do go to the sports games. I do recall people being charged for game entry, but not parking.
Sure. So those are two separate things.
Right.
So in Savannah, when we go to the GRPA, we're charged for an entry fee, not for parking.
Right.
So those are two separate things.
Okay.
You're absolutely correct. But they do charge us $10 to go to the
Right.
rec center, so you're absolutely correct.
So I am in agreement
Yes, ma'am.
that we do, and when I do go see our grandkids play in baseball games at in Clayton County, they have been charging. That's not that's normal.
Sure,
They do
sure,
charge
sure.
anywhere from $5. Depends if it's a tournament.
That's right.
You can buy a ticket that is cheaper to buy for the whole
Exactly.
whole 3 days. If you're just there for one day, it may be $5.
Exactly.
So I do agree with charging with entry.
Sure.
I do think it's going to be hard to charge people to park because our parks are so open, for one. Now, I did, before Ms. Subadan got here about 2 years ago, bring a person who was interested, and they spoke with the director and our previous city manager about building parking decks, because I was very interested in parking decks being built after going to Grant Park and seeing their parking deck and how it was pretty much self-managed. I love Grant Park's parking deck because it's self-managed, and they are, and it's a quick way to, it's not a quick way, but they're making money off of that parking deck. So I do think that we should consider at some of our facilities putting parking decks to allow for more parking and to generate revenue. One of the things that we need more parking space at the tennis center, And I would love to see a parking deck built there to allow for more parking and to generate revenue. I would even say consider some parking decks somewhere around the Wolf Creek Amphitheater. Here at Walkmore Park, I think it's over 400 parking spaces, but it's real open. And I don't see how we're going to charge for parking. But I do agree that we do need to start charging for some of these youth sports events, like other cities are doing it. They've been doing it. I never had a clue why we weren't doing it here. Maybe because we had the athletic associations. They were sly doing it and using that money for their associations. I think we need to stop that. And I do think it needs to be a non-cash way to do it. Even when we take fees for people coming in using our park and recreation facility, I noticed that people are paying with cash. I think we need to get away from cash, period, number one, so that we can track whatever is coming in. And we don't have to worry about people taking cash too. That's kind of archaic now. I do know we have a lot of seniors that, well, for people who are not residents, they will have to pay, but I think we need to get away from cash. It's just kind of hard to trace cash and trace whether it's being for theft purposes or it's just hard to manipulate. Not saying that our staff is I just think it's real hard to trace cash. And I yield.
The chair recognizes District 1, Councilwoman Dr. Rao.
Thank you for the presentation. As we think about parking, I think we probably need to think about future state in these fees. I know in Sandtown Park, we've had a shortage of parking for years. I think it was at GMA, there have been vendors that work with cities to build parking decks. I don't know. I think we need to begin a plan for that. As it relates to tournaments, that's to me a no-brainer. We definitely should be doing that, but I think we need to look at, or I would hope the city manager would come back with a plan on parking across the city, figuring out where we might need to form partnerships and look at that. Of course, Wolf Creek is an obvious one. Sandtown, it's long overdue. We've needed additional parking for years. It's very limited. We don't even really have enough at the rec center. You got a limited space. I mean, we just had a meeting there, and we just didn't have enough space without having to walk a very long distance. So I think it's something we should look at. I'm just not sure if it's now, just because the reality is we don't have adequate parking. So I'd really like your thoughts for us to look at it in a comprehensive way as it relates to fees, and I guess I'm curious about what's driving it right now. Is it because we need to begin to make those investments, or I just want to understand. If you could provide any background on that, it would be helpful.
You want me to take that? The issue on parking has come up before, and recently Councilwoman Bell also brought it back. But we have had this issue of paying for parking come up before it came up when I just came on board. So I felt like it was, since we're talking about fees, I felt like this was a good opportunity to bring it in front of you. The parking decks are extraordinarily expensive to build. They're about $25,000 a parking space. So they're generally very cost prohibitive unless you have a lot of traffic. So in places like Grant Park and in the city of Atlanta, you see a lot of decks because they're limited on land and they're able to get a very solid return on their investment. In terms of our overall, in fact, recently we met with the parks planner that did the parks plan and asked for some updates and talked about some changes that we needed and updates that we needed. I didn't really address the issue of parking, but it is something we probably can circle back with him on.
But thank you. And as you look at that park plan, it may be that we may need to look at adjacent,
Available
parcels, even if it's flat parking, to figure it out. And I think we've all kind of beat the horse on, we need to make sure we paving the parking lots that we have to bring them up to snuff. I know we had that conversation about the need to do that at Wolf Creek, but it's a number of parking lots that need attention. And so I'm looking forward to hearing more. I'm open, but I'm torn, to be honest, about, how we roll it out and make it make sense. It may make sense as we talk about, I know we're looking at all this EV infrastructure and some of these other things. Maybe we tie some of that together as we make additional investments in our facility and parking areas. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The chair recognizes District 5 Councilwoman Bell.
Thank you so much for this presentation, Mr. Turner. Thank you, Madam City Manager, for definitely taking on this request. And I believe I just mentioned this recently because I was charged $20 at my 13-year-old nephew's basketball game to park. And so there are several cities that have already taken this opportunity. This is a great way for us to generate revenue, but this is for special events that will result in larger crowds. Those are those outside participants that are not necessarily specifically residents of our city. Many parks, many recreation centers, they're already charging for tournaments that can result in 100 plus, 200 plus individuals. I do agree that we need to have a plan for expansion on our current parks and recs as far as the parking. Even when I think about Burdette, Creel, Sandtown, even other parks that we have within our city, we would love to expand. I parked in the grass and I was charged $20 for parking. So though it was attached to the school, and this is a school, I was still charged $20 because the basic general parking for $10 was already out. So I had to park in what they considered VIP parking. And though I was closer to the door, that was still a cost associated with parking for a 13-year-old's basketball game. I think we definitely, I'm definitely in agreement for this, especially when I think about our Outlaw Classic that we have at Burdette, when I think about some of the other special events, even thinking about parking that's at Wolf Creek. A lot of times when we're going to other venues and amphitheaters, there is always a cost, and depending on if you're going to concerts or concerts in the parks, there's always a cost. So I appreciate the presentation, and again, thank you for taking on this request as well.
Thank you. VIP parking at a kids game, that's so Atlanta.
On grass.
But no, I love ATL. I love it. I was born and raised here. But so this was great. Yes, thank you so much for the presentation. We've had some rich conversation, and I hope that particularly you, Madam City Manager, and the directors who have to implement what we are talking up here, I hope that you all have some things that you can take away from it. I would like to just to leave this thought. We do a lot of events in this city. As council people, we do a lot of events, and I think that some of that is because there wasn't an infrastructure before we existed, right? We're trying to create a culture. We're trying to create signature events and things, and we talked a lot about city events and games, but I think we could, if it is the council's desire, and I don't know if it is, but we could get out of the events business and have professionals come and put on some of these events and festivals, but it's gotta make sense for them, right? And the end of the day, they have to be able to make some money, right? And being able to rent out parks or charge for park, we have to figure out how as we professionalize these events and some of them become bigger and bigger, right? If we want to get out of the event business and have professionals run them, we have to be able to make it make sense for them. And so I think that the discussions that we're having today will help with that and provide richer cultural experiences than we might have the resources as a city to provide with, our tax dollars. So the chair recognizes Councilwoman Willis.
So I thank you, Mayor, for your comments and Councilmember Bell, and I also thank staff for tackling this issue. But one of the things I just want to make sure that we do not do is continue to create a space where we allow people to come to our facility, run their private enterprises, make money off of this facility, and then when it comes down to the wear and tear of the facility, that the taxpayers are left holding the burden of repairing our facilities. We need to make sure that, yes, we care about the event planners being profitable, but we need to make sure that our taxpayers are not left with the burden of their tax dollars being used to repair damages and wear and tear of the use of the facilities of people coming in and running their enterprises and then leaving us, because that's what has happened in the past. We have I would say BS before Subadan. We have had a lot of individuals come into the city of South Fulton, and it really was happening before we even became a city. That's why we have so many buildings that were left in disrepair. They had, you had a lady walking around the park selling spiked pickles. You had people selling chips, barbecues, all kinds of stuff going on in the park. And, they were obtaining not one business permit, one business license from the city. They weren't obtaining no business permits. No permits from the park. And you have some youth athletic associations that were charging people to get into games, and not one bit of that money was coming back to Parks and Recreation. Now we're left with having to put millions of dollars, not into one facility, but into multiple facilities. Got to repair restrooms at Bird Egg and at Krill, and they need a whole new building. So we just need to, I'm glad we're having this conversation. Thank you, Mr. Ternard, for bringing this forward. And thank you, Ms. Subadan. But, we need to make sure that we don't continue to create that type of environment. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Clerk, please sound the next item.
Next item is executive session.
I'm going to ask that we're over time. I think we will have time for an executive session after we get through these zoning cases, but people have been waiting patiently, and since we are 18 minutes behind schedule, I will ask if we could table this executive session till after the work session.
I move to table the executive session.
Second.
All right, it's been probably moved and seconded. I'll take that vote by show of hands.
Record that approved unanimously.
I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn, and we can start back at 6:25 in 6 minutes with our
Motion
work
to adjourn
session.
executive session, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Not
Well,
executive
well,
session.
not executive session, but,
I'm
Work
sorry,
session.
Work session.
all right, and that's fine. We're going to start at 6:25.
We can't just go through it now?
Well, someone's got to take a
All right, all right. I'll entertain that vote by show of hands.
Record that motion was approved unanimously. We are adjourned at 6:19 p.m.
We're adjourned to 6:25. Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. If folks could take their seats, we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call to order our special call zoning hearing. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
This is a roll call for the alcohol zoning public hearing. The Honorable Catherine F. Rao, District 1.
Present.
The Honorable Carmelita Gomes, District 2. The Honorable Helen Z. Willis, District 3. The Honorable J.C. Sebastian, District 4.
Present.
The Honorable Kiosha B. Bell, District 5.
Present.
The Honorable Natasha Williams Brown, District 6. And the Honorable Linda B. Pritchett, District 7.
Here.
And the Honorable Mayor Khalid.
Present.
So, Mayor, you have a quorum.
All right, Mr. McClendon, I believe you have an announcement about some of the cases.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Reginald McClendon, Managing Director of Community Development and Regulatory Affairs. The case M24001, I believe there are some community members who are here for that case. It is not on tonight's calendar. That is the modification for the cell phone tower. That is not on tonight's calendar. I believe there was an original announcement that went out from the developer saying that that would be on tonight's calendar, but that is scheduled for April the 9th at this same location at the same time. So if you are here for that case, please return on April the 9th. We apologize for that miscommunication, but there should be a sign posted at that location by the city at this time, as well as notification that went out from the city announcing the date of April the 9th, not March the 19th.
All right, again, our apologies for the miscommunication. We will see those of you that are here on April the 9th. But if you want to stay and get a preview, you can see how we handle these cases. Mr. Clerk, please sound the first item.
First item on tonight's agenda is special use permit, short-term rental, It's a public hearing, U23-015, application by Latrice Allen, requesting a special use permit to operate a short-term rental at 7545 Rivertown Road. It's located in District 4 in the AG1 zoning district. Staff and Planning Commission recommend approval.
Mr. McClendon?
Thank you. Please allow me to ask, is there a representative here on behalf of case U 23-015 7545 Rivertown Road? All right, there is a representative here that has announced herself. This is case U 23-015 7545 Rivertown Road. It is a request for a short-term rental at an existing single-family residence at 7545 Rivertown Road in the AG1 Agricultural District, Cedar Grove Overlay in City Council District 4. Staff and Planning Commission recommend approval. I believe this case is old enough that we do have the police report data in your staff reports if you have them in front of you. And this is an approval conditional, those conditions being that the special use permit is not transferable and that the permittee is required to maintain a valid South Fulton business license to operate a short-term rental.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. We will have 10 minutes for those speaking in favor and 10 minutes for those speaking in opposition. If Ms. Allen or a representative wants to come forward and just give us your name, address, and then your 10 minutes will start. Be mindful that you may want to reserve some balance of that time for your rebuttal. You don't have to use the entire 10 minutes, but if you have any comments that you'd like to express to council, you can do that now. Anyone speaking in favor of this short-term rental? Going once, going twice. All right, anyone in opposition? Going once, going twice. Okay, seeing or hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and, oh, wait. Nope. We're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. We will, I'm not going to lie. When are we voting on this? Because we
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
Correct.
All right, so please come to Southwest Arts Center at 915 New Hope Road next Tuesday. All right, that's when we'll make the decision, but I am going to open it up to council for questions, yes. All right, the chair recognizes District 4 Councilman Sebastian, Mayor Pro Tem Sebastian.
All right, I wish someone was here representing, because if anyone in staff can answer this, what's up with these alarms? I really wanted to know what's up with these alarms. There are so many alarms, and have our officers been going to these premises so frequently for what?
There is a representative here that has said that she's representing this property owner, so I will ask if she can answer those questions.
Okay. Who's the representative, sorry?
Do you mind just coming to the mic? We just have some questions for you. Thank you. Don't be shy, we won't bite.
My name is Tashi Mims, and my address is 100 Columbia Court, Decatur, Georgia. She just told me to come.
He's got some questions for you. That's okay. You don't have to say anything.
Yeah. I was asking about the alarms. There are a lot of alarms that have been triggered on the premises. I mean, it doesn't seem as if it's a high crime spot. I know this property very well. I pass it almost every day. But do you know anything why there's so many alarms out triggered from the address?
Like when we go in, it just goes off, but it don't be nothing like nothing's going on in it.
Okay. So it triggers something because I just want to know if our officers have been going out there every time they got a trip, because we now have a precinct not too far when people patrolling the area. So they basically need to figure out how to not let the alarm trip to trigger other things.
Okay.
And then I don't know, do you know a lot about the property? Okay. I guess hopefully next Tuesday, if there's a rep there, I have some questions for them. With regards, and Reggie, I don't know if you know this, the access to, because it's next to Rivertown Mill subdivision, and while it's a large property, and it has a lot of parking, it has a lot of parking off-street, so I'm not worried about them parking along Rivertown Road. The one concern I have is if folks there would have access to the backyard of people who live in Rivertown Mill that's next to that property, whether there's access to the backyards of the folks. That's my only question. I need some clarification on that piece. So if they can provide any information, whether it's before or next Tuesday, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, please sound the next item.
Next item is alcohol license application. It's a public hearing. The applicant for 3805 Flat Shoals Road, doing business as Circle K, has applied for an alcohol license for the retail sale of beer and wine at 3805 Flat Shoals Road, Union City, Georgia 30291. This is a request for a new license at this location. It's located in District 5.
Okay, hello everyone. The application for 3805 Flat Shoals Road, LLC, doing business as Circle K, located at 3805 Flat Shoals Road, has met all legal requirements to obtain a new alcohol license at this location. This location previously held an alcohol license and is currently operating on a temporary alcohol beverage license. A public safety plan was submitted and approved, and staff recommends approval.
All right, thank you. The applicant is here. All right, please come forth. I think you've heard all the rules. Please state your name and address. You'll have 10 minutes. You may want to reserve some of the balance of your time for rebuttal if there's people speaking in opposition. You don't have to use your whole 10 minutes, and we'll have some questions afterwards. Your time starts now.
Hi, my name is Dana Farkas, Farkas. I'm a licensing consultant. I am not an attorney. My address is 245 Sequoia, Sequoyah Drive, Alpharetta, Georgia 30004, Cherokee County. And this is the applicant.
My name is Akanksha Patange. I'm a resident of 861 Perennial Drive, Atlanta, Georgia 30328. Fulton County.
So we're just here to answer questions. I represent her. I prepared the application. She has plenty of experience learning from a very good person that has been in the business for a long time. She's been running a store in the city of Atlanta for just a little under a year. So she's been trained in all the nuances of operating the business, how to manage inventory, the banking, how to train the employees, how to handle the alcohol storage and ordering, and the requirements for how to prevent underage sales, things of that nature. So if y'all would like to ask her questions, absolutely please do. I'm here for backup.
Awesome. All right, you usually have 8 minutes and 42 seconds reserved. Is there anyone speaking in opposition? All right. Going once, going twice. All right, seeing and hearing none in opposition, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and open the floor to questions from council, beginning as always with the district representative.
All right, thank you so much. Now, this Circle K location has been in District 5 for how long?
I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. That was one question I didn't anticipate. It's been there for a while.
Okay.
Several years. I just can't tell you how many.
This is, I'm familiar with the location. And I know you currently have a license. You're under a temporary license, correct?
We haven't received it yet. It should be being signed today. I should have it tomorrow in my mailbox.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Just, this is just one question. It's not a question for you all. It's just a comment. I see that it's listed as Union City. You know,
That's the actual mailing address,
got you.
not the post office, which we can't
Right.
change.
Yeah, but it is, you can
Yes,
write,
I know it's absolutely in
Yes,
South Fulton,
South
trust
Fulton,
me.
yes,
I know it
yes.
is. Because when I saw Union City, I questioned that, and I'm like, no, no, no. So before I started the application, I make sure I'm in the right jurisdiction, because I don't have time to fill out the wrong application.
absolutely, absolutely. If we could make sure that it's right on ours,
Well, what I would say is that that needs to be directed to the police department. My understanding is that whatever address is on the application has to match what's on the agenda for legal public hearing. So I would have to defer to police department.
I would ask that however we need to make it appear, it looks crazy when on our own documents we aren't using our city's name. So if we need to have the police department insist that they write South Fulton when they are writing the address so that it appears on our agenda correctly, because
I think
if
that's
our
a post
own
office issue. I
if
don't-
our own documents say Union City, it's hard to tell our residents, no, you live in the city of South Fulton, when they're like looking at our addresses. So just a little, that's not for you all. That's just
Yeah,
that's
I
an
know, I
operational
think it's a
thing for us.
post office thing. I don't think it's our thing. We don't get to change the address. The post office assigns the address.
Alrighty.
So I don't think we can just change it.
We'll have a rich post office discussion very soon. Thank you all very much. Seeing and hearing no other questions. All right. I think that's it, Mr. Clerk. Please sound. So we'll vote on this next
Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, next Tuesday, March 26th at Southwest Arts Center, 915 New Hope Road, 30331. We
we
just
need to-
hear the cases today, and then we vote at the next.
Do we need to come back next Tuesday?
You don't have to come back, but that's when we'll take the vote.
Well, I mean, it's quite a long distance for me. If you need me here, I'm happy to come here, but if I'm not needed,
Oh, no, we don't ask questions of the applicant. We have discussion amongst ourselves and take a vote, and you can actually log in on Zoom or on YouTube and
oh, I
watch.
can attend by
And watch
Zoom?
it live, yes.
Fabulous, I love that. Thank you very much.
We do what we can here. Thank you. All right, Mr. Clerk, please sound the next item.
Next item is executive session.
All right, and we are, all right. I will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I motion to go into executive session. Personnel, litigation, and real estate, and cybersecurity.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. I'll take that vote by show of hands.
Record that motion approved unanimously. We are recessed at 6:41 p.m.
All right, we'll see you guys back here at 7-ish. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. As we just need one more person for a quorum, and we'll go ahead and close out this executive session and call the meeting to order. Yes, and Nova's agenda, thank you so much. All right, I will entertain a motion to close executive session. All right.
Second.
We have it probably moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, seeing and hearing none, I'll take that vote by show of hands.
Did she say to reconvene from executive session?
To
Yeah.
adjourn, close executive session.
Yeah, okay.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to reconvene.
I'd like to make a motion to reconvene.
Second.
It's been probably moved and seconded. Take that vote by show of hands. All right, I will entertain a motion to close the special call meeting.
I move to close the special call meeting.
Second.
All right, it's been probably moved and seconded. Take that vote by show of hands. All right,
We are adjourned at 7:36 p.m.
thank you. I will call to order our regular meeting. Thank you all for staying up with us. We're a few minutes behind, but Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Good afternoon. This is the roll call for the regular meeting, 7 p.m. The Honorable Catherine F. Rao, District 1.
Present.
The Honorable Carmelita Gums, District 2. Present. The Honorable Helen Z. Willis, District 3. The Honorable J.C. Sebastian, District 4. The Honorable Keosha B. Bell, District 5.
Present.
The Honorable Natasha Williams Brown, District 6. The Honorable Linda B. Pritchett, District 7.
Here.
And the Honorable Mayor Khalid.
Present.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
All right. Please sound the next item.
Yes, we'll have the invocation by Chaplain Nunley.
Let us pray. God, we thank you for another day. We thank you for this time of meeting. God, we ask you to continue to bless the city of South Fulton, bless our mayor and council, police chief, fire chief. Keep us together as a city. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clerk. Please sound the next item.
Next item is approval of City Council meeting minutes, regular meeting minutes from February 27, 2024, work session meeting minutes from February 27, 2024, and special call meeting minutes from March 14, 2024.
All right, I'll entertain a motion. There are plenty of empty seats. Are any young ladies
I
or
move to
children wanna
approve the
sit?
minutes as sounded in the work session minutes.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. I'll take that vote by show of hands.
Record that motion approved unanimously.
All right, Mr. Clerk, please sound the next item.
Next item is adoption of council agenda.
All right, I will entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the council minutes as sounded on the agenda.
Oh, we're the agenda now. We're approving the council agenda, not the minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, approval of the agenda as stated on the presenting document.
All right. There a second? All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, I'll take that vote by show of hands.
Record that motion approved unanimously.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clerk. Please sound the next item.
Next item is proclamation presentations. We have one proclamation presentation this evening. Proclamation presentation recognizing Coach T.J. Jones and the Burdette 10U State Championship basketball team. Councilmember Bell.
Champions, come on down. Champions, come on down this side of the camera. You and your families, come on down.
me your seat. You're trying to open the bag. You got a lot of stuff in there, basketball, everything. Can you? Yeah, that's how we keep it live in District 5. Don't worry about it. Back down. That's what I was thinking.
All right, well, we have now reached my favorite part in the agenda where we get to hear from all of you. Mr. Clerk, would you please read the rules for public comment?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Prior to reading the rules for tonight's public comment, I did not receive any cards, so is there anyone present that wishes to make public comment at this time? With that being said, Mr. Mayor, we do not have any public comment speakers this evening.
Seeing and hearing none, we'll move to the next item.
Next item is council comments.
All right, we'll go in reverse order this time, starting with District 7, Councilwoman Pritchett.
Trying to remember what I need to say. Well, thank you everyone for coming out, everyone that's tuned in. Last week, many of us attended a training conference at the National Leagues of Cities in Washington, D.C. We met council members from all around the country, and these are the type of training that we frequently go to be able to be more effective in our roles. And that's it for me.
All right, District 6, Councilwoman Williams-Brown.
Well, how y'all are? I am glad for y'all to see me, I guarantee. If you're a fan of, an old school fan of PBS and watched Justin Wilson's Louisiana Cooking Homegrown, you'll recognize that intro. I just simply want to say thank you to everybody for the outpouring of love and support while I was out having surgery and then home recovering. The phone calls, the text messages, the emails, the food, the meals, cakes, pies, everything that all of you did for me really brought a lot of comfort and a lot of joy through a very difficult time. I think probably one of the most difficult times I've had in my 56 years on earth. And so I'm extremely grateful to know that so many people genuinely cared and weren't just smiling in my face while they stuck a knife in my back. So thank you to everyone who came by the house to drop off, the food, who sent baskets, who sent cards, for all that you did and all the support that you showed. It is good to know that the community truly is a community, and that when we talk about the Old National Corridor being a family, that we really truly are a family, and that you all there for me during this time. So thank you very much, and I can assure you that I will be back to my old cranky, crotchety self in no time flat.
Thank you, Councilwoman Williams-Brown. And let me say on behalf of our city, welcome back. We have missed your pithy commentary. District 5, Councilwoman Bell.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for watching online. Again, special thanks to all of the residents who came out alongside my colleague, Councilwoman Willis, Parks and Rec, everyone, the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, for coming out to the Armored Up community vaccination event that was held at Burdette Park, as well as special thanks to Walgreens for really taking part and being able to provide this service for our residents within the city of South Fulton back on March the 9th. In addition to that, we are gearing up, as we always do in District 5, keeping it live in District 5. So we are getting prepared for our community resource fair, as well as our Easter egg extravaganza, which is scheduled for March the 30th from 12 noon to 4 p.m. Please be sure, if you are a resident in our city, to register online. Special thanks to our South Fulton Police Department for a hefty contribution of over 2,000 eggs that have been donated for our Easter extravaganza, all about the community. So again, thank you so much for that. For contact information, I know there are some residents who have expressed a concern or trying to reach out to me directly. I can be reached once again at kiosha.bill@cityofsouthfultonga.gov. In addition, I may also be reached directly at 470-525-1974. Please feel free to contact me directly and or email me. I'm always here available and present, so please also come out and feel free to join us at one of our city council meetings, as well as any events that we may have in District 5. And I look forward to meeting more and more of our residents. And thank you so much.
Thank you. District 4 Mayor Pro Tem Sebastian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I didn't get a chance to publicly say Happy Women's Month to our sisters up here, on all the women across our city, across the world, the women on our staff. I appreciate y'all, right? More than y'all know. I frequently say the women that have had most impact in my life growing up have been women. I have still been in touch with teachers from grade school, right? So thank y'all. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and so despite the internal gray hair that they have given me up here, we still do get along. We have our differences, but we most of the times work those out. I want to thank those who wished me a happy birthday this past weekend, and those who attended my little cake and ice cream event as well over in the fabulous Fourth. Just want to thank you all and for making my day and making my weekend. I want to just encourage folks to take advantage of some resources in our fire department. Thank you, Chief Jones, for doing the fire alarm blitz this past weekend over in District 4, because of some of the recent issues that we have. And those that don't know, you can contact our fire department and get these fire alarm things put into your homes. You just have to call and make an appointment for our officers to come out and check those and get them installed for you. Also, just wanted to remind folks, we are still in March, but our Autism Fest is coming up on April the 13th at Wilkinson Mill Park. So look out for that event that is coming up, as well as our, speaking of fire, one of the popular events in District 4, very popular with the kids, Fire and Ice Cream, where we teach kids about fire safety, kids and adults, right? And I understand our fire department is going to step it up to another level this year. So again, that will be on April 27th in District 4. And for those who are interested in getting my newsletter, visit our city's website and go to my page, or you can email me at jcsebastian@cityofsouthfultonga.gov. That's JACEEY.SEBASTIAN@cityofsouthfultonga.gov. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. District 3 Councilwoman Willis.
I'm going to be very brief for a change. I want to thank all the residents for engaging and participating in the two Vax Up, Armored Up vaccination events that we hosted. in collaboration with Walgreens. I got that resource from my church, Enon, Pastor Pollard, and I want to thank him for sharing that valuable resource, and we will be having additional events. I want to also thank Enon, a Baptist Fellowship, for recognizing me and giving me the Woman of Influence Award on this previous Sunday. It was a surprise. I didn't anticipate it. And I want to thank everyone that gave thought behind that. I would encourage all residents who are not getting my newsletter to please subscribe. If you're not getting it, you can send me an email at helen.willis@cityofsouthfultonga.gov. I will encourage you to, when you see something, see, click, fix it. A lot of times we have litter on our streets. We have dead animal corpse because people are not reporting it, and we need that stuff reported so that we can get that stuff addressed. Also, code enforcement issues. I also want to tell my colleague happy birthday. He is the only male on the city council, but I have to give him credit. He is quite a gentleman, and he's very protective of the females on this council. So thanks being the big brother that I don't have anymore. My brother was killed in 2003 in a fatal car accident. So it's good to have protection when my husband isn't around. There's a serious matter going on that impacts various parcels in the city of South Fulton. I have shared the information in my newsletter, and so has Councilmember Sebastian. Thank you for joining in on and helping me and get the information out about House Bill 905. If you have not read about House Bill 905, please look at one of our newsletters. What House Bill 905 is legislation that will essentially annex 90 parcels throughout the city of South Fulton into Union City from the city of South Fulton. This was legislation that was put into effect after crossover day, and they added the language into the bill on the Senate side. It is currently sitting in rules, and if it comes out of rules, it would go to the Senate floor for a vote. And this will set a dangerous precedent, and it compromises the will of the people. We voted in 2016 to become a city and to lock our borders. So for whatever reason, for individuals to form a coup and go to a state legislator that doesn't live in this vicinity, making legislator to put forth legislation to take land from our tax base is totally disrespectful to the residents and the democracy. So I would ask that you send emails in opposition to this, hold our legislators, all of them and on the Senate side, feet to the fire, and help us address this matter. Thank you so much, and have a great evening.
Thank you. District 2, Councilwoman Gomes.
I also want to say happy birthday to JC. We had a good time at the ice cream party. That was fun. Also, I want to say on March the 21st, which is this coming Thursday, I believe it is, we have a groundbreaking ceremony at Butner and Union Road that incorporates District 2 and District 3. Of course, again, we want to make sure that you all see your taxpayers' dollars at work, so we're putting some shovels in the ground. Some of the work has already began, but we want you to come out and celebrate with us. This has been a problematic intersection for quite some time, and we are now, as a city, moving forward. Also, too, you may have noticed some improvements at Stonewall Tell and Campbellton Road. The traffic signal is up and operating very smoothly. I actually came through it late last night, and it was beautiful. So I'm excited. So I do want to say thank you to our staff for making all of that happen. I think we were on schedule for completion. So big shout out to Mr. Valenzuela. Also, too, we are having our third annual Bold and Beautiful Celebrating Women in Business and Community Leader. It is a business mixer that we have at Fresh to Herb Tea Shop over in the Butner Village. We have women that come out, we celebrate, we network, just meeting new people that we have not met, just to celebrate women. We will be doing that again on the 28th at 6 o'clock. So we do encourage you to come out. We have some phenomenal women that are coming out to join us. We will have a panel, and there will also be people there to answer any questions. And lastly, we have two more. April the 20th will be, of course, that is Earth Day. We are doing the Earth Day Parade with Kendall Ray, who is our little South Fulton farmer. So she will be hosting the parade. We had one last year off of Old National, and we are excited to do that again, just making sure that we encourage residents to come out, learn a little bit more about Earth Day and the ways that we can save the environment. And lastly, District 2, but this is for the entire city, will be hosting a free bulk and paper shredding day. We will be asking for electronics to be thrown in there for recycling of electronics, because I know a lot of people who have old typewriters, old computer monitors, and they're still collecting all of this dust. But we want to make sure that we get that out of our homes, and then we not recycle, but put them to good use in a nice little electronic graveyard. But that is all that I have for today. And just one more reminder, senior body sculpting and the men over 50 workout group is growing. It is exciting. I want to keep pushing this to see, again, seniors to come out, work out with their neighbors. It addresses isolation and also health fitness. So please continue to come out. I do believe they are petitioning to get a bunch of T-shirts. We got to come up with a name. So that is at Sandtown Park at 10 a.m. on Mondays and 11 a.m. respectfully. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to take this opportunity to say congratulations to Zion Hill on launching their senior garden. We had a huge turnout for that event, and I was glad to be there to celebrate the occasion. So kudos to their ministry for launching something they have been working on pre-COVID, and now the garden is in full effect. Beautiful garden. I want to encourage people to come out for our monthly community cleanup for the Cascade Corridor. It's this Saturday at 10 a.m. Please sign up via Eventbrite. Sign up June, correction. And last but not least, we have the egg extravaganza at Sandtown Park on this Saturday from 1 to 4 p.m. Please come out. I know the Parks and Rec staff have been working diligently on that event. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank everybody who came out for the D1 Town Hall meeting. We had a full house and over 100 people watching online. Thank you for your engagement and participation. Thank you.
Yesterday, well, thank you everyone for your announcements. Yesterday was Sunday, actually, March 17th, was the birthday of Bayard Rustin. If those of y'all who do not know who he is the architect of the March on Washington. It literally would not have happened without him. He would have been 112 years old. On the 17th, you can go to the next slide. He was a critical organizer in the civil rights movement. There was a great film, Rustin, which was nominated for an Academy Award for Coleman Domingo, who played Rustin. If you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend that you go to Netflix and watch it. And also, 20 years before that, there was an incredible documentary about his life, more than just organizing the March on Washington. He organized, he was a part of the organizing the Freedom Rides, the Montgomery bus boycott, many other items. And he is just an important part of our history that he's often, he's often written out of the history books. So it is really great as he was a member of the LGBT community, and as a member, I think that it's important that we remember everyone's contributions to our civil rights and our collective rights. You can go to the next slide. There were many celebrations this weekend, including at the Center for Civil and Human Rights, as well as at the state capitol, where he was recognized with a proclamation. You can see me here at this event with his surviving partner, Walter Nagel, who gave us just a great history of this man. So I do encourage you all to learn this important part of our history here in the city of South Fulton. You go to the next slide. You heard about the senior body sculpting and the muscles after 50 class, which is just for men. Myself and my staff, Mr. Bolger and Mr. Otway, we usually there on Mondays, so definitely come out. We're trying to build up that contingent. There's as Councilwoman Gum said, there's no reason to be alone in your home. It's a really great fellowship, and it's a really healthy activity. And just before, next slide, just before, I don't know where the slide is. Just before the egg hunt at Sandtown at 1 o'clock, we will be having our Park and Pause. It's our monthly celebration with the first dog, Zion, so you can catch us all over the city this Saturday. You can find information on these events at cityofsouthfultonga.gov or by texting the word Fulton to 33777. Thank you all for being here tonight, South Fulton forever. Mr. Clerk, please sound the next item.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, that brings us to Roman numeral 10, consent agenda.
I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda for Tuesday, March 19, 2024.
Second.
All right, it's probably moved and seconded. Any further discussion? I will say about the item on the consent agenda, we didn't talk about it, but the grand opening of Enon Ranch was a grand affair, and if you have not been, it is a beautiful facility. When you're thinking about shooting your next movie or scheduling your next wedding or great event, you might want to take a look at that incredible facility. I did entertain a motion. I'll take that vote by a show of hands.
Record that vote approved unanimously.
All right, please sound the next item.
That brings us to agenda items. Number 8, under administration, request approval of following event, Veterans Lunch for November 9, 2024 at 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the South Fulton Tennis Center. This was placed on the agenda by Councilmember Pritchett.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the Veterans Luncheon for November 9th, 2024 at 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the South Fulton Tennis Center.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. I'll entertain a vote by a show of hands.
Record that vote approved unanimously.
All right, please sound the next item.
Next item is the Culture Affairs Department is requesting the council to approve the ranking for request for proposal number 23-87, event management for Wolf Creek Amphitheater.
All right.
The city staff reviewed the vendor proposals and ranked FCE Entertainment Incorporated as the #1 firm. The evaluation committee recommends FCE Entertainment for award of the contract.
I'll entertain a motion to approve staff's recommendation for the awarded contract.
I would like to make a motion to not accept the recommendation for FC Entertainment Incorporated and move forward with awarding Omega 14 Incorporated Event Management for the Wolf Creek Amphitheater, which is the most advantageous for the city of South Fulton at this time.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, I'll entertain that vote by a show of hands.
1, 2, 3, 4. I record 6 yeas.
All right, that passes. Please sound the next item.
Next item is item 10. The Information Technology Department is requesting the council to approve the contract for Microsoft Enterprise Agreement with Dell Incorporated for an annual estimated cost of not to exceed $1.8 million across 3 years with the option to renew 2 years. The contract was effective April 2024 and expires April 2027.
I move to approve the Information Technologies Department for Enterprise Agreement with Microsoft and Dell Inc. For number 999 SPD SPD 000060 0006.
Good Lord. Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I'll just say, whoo, that's a lot of money. All right, I'll take that vote by a show of hands.
Where that motion was approved unanimously.
All right, I'll enter, please sound the next item.
Next item is item 11, second reading, request council approval of a revised ordinance to amend sections 4-3004, duties of the alarm user, and 4-30037, enforcement of Title IV Law Enforcement, Chapter 4, false alarms. This is sponsored by council members Rowell and Pritchett.
I move to approve the revised ordinance to amend section 4-3004.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? I do have, I know we talked about this. Could we, just for clarity's sake for the public, can we just say what changes have been made? The chair recognizes Councilman Pritchett.
So the changes that will be made is, from this point forward, the residents will not be responsible for registering their home alarm systems with our police department. Rather, the alarm companies are required to register with the police department for the reduction of false alarms, to promote the reduction of false alarms.
All right, the chair recognizes Dr. Rao.
In addition, we kept the fees in place. It is the responsibility of the alarm company to register. So that's a key change in it. And thank you to all the citizens who reached out and engaged and expressed your concerns. We heard you.
Thank you for that. And thank you for saying that. I know sometimes folks think we don't listen, but we listen to y'all. Y'all didn't like the fees. We working on it. We taking care of it. All right, I'll entertain that. I'll take that vote by a show of hands.
Record that motion approved unanimously.
All right, please sound the next item.
Next item is item 12. Fire and Rescue Department is requesting the council to enter into a piggyback agreement with the City of Atlanta's for truck service depot to provide preventive maintenance service on the department's fire apparatus for a total not to exceed $150,000.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Fire and Rescue Department request for council to enter to a piggyback agreement with the City of Atlanta's contract with Truck Service Depot to provide preventive maintenance in an amount not to exceed $150,000.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, I'll take that vote by a show of hands.
Record that motion approved unanimously.
All right, please sound the next item.
Next item under Public Works, item 13. Public Works Department is requesting the council to approve the intergovernmental agreement for New Hope Road sidewalk improvement with the City of Atlanta Department of Watershed Management.
I will entertain a motion.
Okay. I move to approve the intergovernmental agreement for New Hope Road sidewalks with the City of Atlanta Department of Watershed in the amount in the DM Department of Watershed is authorized and shall contribute an amount not to exceed $146,700, as well as to approve the award of the invitation to bid number 24-05 PI 0012637 for New Hope sidewalks to the responsive bidder, DAF Concrete, Inc., for $301,268 plus a 10% contingency of $330,126.80.
Second.
And
All
to
right.
provide the match required
It's
from
been-
ARPA funds.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? I have one question, which I ask every time we do one of these projects. When will we actually see the dirt turning over? Do we have, I know you can't say exactly, but do we have an estimate?
My understanding is this is going to actually be a 2-year project. There's quite a bit of sidewalk, but as soon as we get this vote, we will work to award it to the contractor, and we expect dirt to start turning this year for sure. So this has been a long time coming.
It's been a long time coming, but ladies and gentlemen, they're finally coming on New Hope. I jog down that stretch of street with Zion all the time and dodge cars, so it's coming. It's coming. All right, I'll take that vote by show of hands.
Record that motion approved unanimously, both items 13 and 14.
All right, and with that, we are at the end of our agenda, 15 minutes ahead of schedule, and another record timing of agenda. So thank you, Madam City Manager, for your excellent management of this agenda process. And thank you all for moving through things so quickly and efficiently. Please sound the next item.
Next item is executive session.
I move to go into executive session for personnel, real estate, cybersecurity, and litigation.
Second.
All right, it's been probably moved and seconded. I'll take that vote by show of hands. All right, we're adjourned to executive session.
Mayor, can we do Artie first?
Record that is unanimous. We are adjourned, recessed at 8:20 p.m. You up, James?
You need one more person, Clerk.
All right, are we back? All right, thank you all for staying up with us here at the City of South Fulton's regular meeting. I will entertain a motion to adjourn executive session and reconvene our meeting.
I move to adjourn the executive session
And reconvene.
and reconvene.
All right, been probably moved and seconded. Let's take that vote by show of hands.
Record that vote is 4-0.
All right.
Approved.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Been properly moved and second. I will entertain that vote by show of hands.
Approved 4-0. We are adjourned at 10:16 p.m. Thank you. Have a good evening.